All right, the push to get home is in full effect, especially if you are eastbound 24. That is going to be especially stop and go there at 440. You've got the slow build, 65 northbound up to 440 eastbound. Same goes up to 40 eastbound, 65 northbound starting to back up both locations. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Just after 3 o'clock, 3:06 to be precise. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am pleased you are with us. I hope that you've had a good day thus far. It's been an absolutely gorgeous day in the Music City. Chamber of Commerce by this afternoon. A little dreary in Mount Juliet this morning, but it cleared up. And the expectation, and I love saying this and I love hearing it, high conditions in the mid to upper 60s for the rest of the week and lows in the 50s and the 40s in some areas. And my goodness gracious, it's about time that we got a little taste, a little sliver of fall weather.
Just something.
And it appears that we've gotten just a little sliver of fall weather just in time for the Bulldogs to lose. Okay, enough of that, Weber. I promised I wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, we don't need to go there.
Enough of that. Chris Weber is behind the glass, controlling the experience, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. Directly behind them in News Closet A is the one and only Ken Weaver. Hello, Ken.
I want to wear a flannel shirt.
I do, too. Not quite yet, Ken. Not for us fat boys.
No.
I mean, I speak for myself, Ken, not for you now.
Yeah, well, my flannel shirts they're big enough to where I look somewhat skinny.
You might work a lather up, though. It's not quite cool enough.
For a long time in my life, I would go into stores and I would buy these like bulky sweaters because like wool sweaters, like the type that you see sailors wearing, while the lobster fishermen wearing in the Northeast. You know those type.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I would buy those things with every intention of wearing them, and then I realized I'm so fat, I'm never hot enough or cold enough to need them.
Yeah.
So I stopped years ago. But you know what? It's nice to have the weather that necessitates them. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Everybody have a good weekend except Georgia fan?
Yep.
Everybody?
Yeah.
I had a great weekend, man. I made some more oven mitts. Put some of them in the shape of states, some of my favorite states, which do not include Missouri or Mississippi or, let's see, definitely it's not going to be Alabama or Louisiana.
Ken's going to knit a United States of America oven mitt and leave out all of the SEC states except Oklahoma.
Yeah. That's going to be our head coach's face on the front of it.
Well, we're the losing contingent here in the afternoons on Super Talk Night. I'm glad we don't talk sports.
No, sir.
Yeah.
I'm glad we don't talk
We're
sports.
talking oven mitts.
Yeah, I like it. I like the idea. We're going to talk about winning, though, which means we'll not be talking about Georgia football, maybe Ole Miss football. We will talk about winning and how Republicans can't seem to enjoy the win, or at least that's the way it feels to me from the outside looking in. And I'm going to start there in the 4 o'clock hour, so just wait for that. We'll do that in the 4 o'clock hour. In the first hour, we're going to discuss Veterans Day for a little bit. We'll have an opportunity to speak with David Corlew, who is part of the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, a good friend of mine, a good friend of the radio stations, and a friend of Nashville, Tennessee, and beyond. Obviously, David, for years, was the manager of the Charlie Daniels Band. He and Charlie put together the Journey Home Project together. We'll talk about our veterans in Nashville, in Tennessee, and in the United States of America today at 3:35, and I'm excited about that. We'll also discuss politics in Washington, D.C. with Congressman Tim Burchett in the 6 o'clock hour, 6:35 to be precise. That's coming up then, and just set your calendars and your appointments for that. I will remind you, and for those who perhaps missed it, I can't imagine that you did, but if you did, I want to talk a little bit about our good friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson. Brian made the announcement on Friday. if you were not listening, I'm certain that it's podcast. I'm certain that you can find it on social media platforms. Just type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN. But he made the announcement that after 50 years of broadcasting, after 50 years of working in radio and television alike, that he will be hanging up the headphones, at least to a certain degree, in a full-time capacity at the end of the year. I think he said December 24th would be his final day. In making that announcement, he also said that he would still be with us on a less than full-time basis from now until December 24th. He'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of every week moving forward. And I think there are a couple of weeks where that changes just a little bit, like on the week that we do our annual radiothon at Nashville Rescue Mission. I know Brian felt it very important to be there because he loves that event and loves the organization so much. So he'll be there on that Monday. But otherwise, I will be in on these Mondays and Fridays from 3 until 7. And the Chad Benson, whom you just heard on my show from noon until 3, will be subbing in for me on the days that I'm subbing in for Brian Wilson. I apologize for that confusion, but we wanted to get as much Brian Wilson as possible in the time that we have him on the radio airwaves in a full-time capacity as best we can. I want to say a word about Brian. You will never meet a more professional, a more caring, a more giving human being than Brian Wilson. And it is very easy, especially when you're dealing with somebody like me, if you are a Brian Wilson, to not to simply walk past me, or it would be an easy thing to say, well, that's just the new guy. But instead, Brian Wilson opened his arm and his house and his home to me when I first came into Nashville. And on a personal level, I'm going to miss him very much. And I think the community will miss his voice on a daily basis. But Brian Wilson deserves every bit of rest and relaxation that he has earned over his many, many years of broadcasting, not just to our community, but the communities before Nashville, Washington, D.C., and all the way back to old Odessa, Texas in his television days. It has been an honor and a privilege to sit behind the same microphone that Brian Wilson has sat behind. It's been an honor and a privilege to get to sit behind names like Wilson and Phil Valentine and the many, many others that came before them. So I am excited for Brian. I'm excited that he gets to work through retirement. He's not going anywhere in terms of his impact in the community. He made that clear on Friday. He's going to still be here. He'll still be a part of our radio family, and anytime that he wants to swing back in and offer his opinion on anything, any matter, we welcome him in like the family that he is. But I absolutely love the man. I adore his knowledge, his experience, his level of expertise on so many different issues, and we appreciate everything that he's done. It is a privilege to be able to be here on these Mondays and Fridays in these final weeks of him being full-time on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I say in saying that, congratulations to you, Brian, on your retirement. What a wonderful 50-year run. I just hoped for most of my radio career that I made it to the age of 50, and I've managed that. I mean, I'm not talking about in radio, just around by the time you reach 50. But what an incredible new adventure. I mean, I've heard it said that you don't retire from something, you retire to something, and I know that he's got many irons in the fire over there. He's got to get Watertown in ship shape, right?
Yeah, and I was just thinking, you use the term rest and relaxation. If he thinks he's going to rest and relax in retirement, he's got another thing coming, because he has a cabana wife that's going to keep him mighty busy, I think.
Cabana do list, perhaps?
Yep.
Yeah, cabana wife do list. Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any question about that. But
And he's going to have all that time to do it.
Hey, you know what, kid? I cannot tell you the number of times that I have said, I've got to research for the show.
Yeah.
If I only had the time.
Hey, listen, I can't. I've got to focus on this very lengthy article from The Hill or whatever it is. And so now he's got all that time in the world to take care of all of those honeydew projects. So which is to say that we'll be hearing from Brian Plenty, I bet, in the news.
Maybe on a daily basis.
Maybe on a regular basis. The Wilson Minute.
Anybody need a breather?
You want to take some time off there, Matt?
I'll tag in. Don't worry about it. So Brian's back tomorrow. We're not losing him that soon. So never you fear about any of that. But just wanted to make sure that those of you who perhaps missed it were aware of what's going on. So you'll hear me on Mondays and Fridays. You'll hear Brian for the rest of the week. Now, as far as moving forward into 2025, we have not been told anything, at least anything that we can announce. I know that there's moving and shaking going on in the background to make sure. Here's what I do know, and here's what I am permitted to tell you. I would admit that I perhaps know a few things that I'm not permitted to tell you, but here's what I can tell you. I understand that there's a lot of consternation about the future of our format. I understand that there's a lot of consternation about the future of the United States of America. Now, a lot of those fears were laid to rest last Tuesday, and we are thankful for that. I am reinvigorated in my belief in this country. I admit to you that I was very fearful that because of the thumb on the scale placed there by many in the mainstream media, placed there by people that know better, placed there by billionaires who ought to know better, placed there by people who do not have a concern or a care in the world for your personal liberties, freedoms, and the Constitution of the United States. I was worried. I know that I'm naturally a pessimist, but I walked into last Tuesday worried that enough people were not paying enough attention, that they would buy in and they would be snowed under by this. And as I was driving away from the Wilson County Fairgrounds, and I'm not trying to be overly sentimental or soppy about it or maudlin, but I found myself with something of a reinvigoration in the American people, because I've long said that they treat you stupid and you're not that stupid. And I think the American people demonstrated that last Tuesday night. And as a result of that attitude of revitalization, of a re-energizing of the soul and the senses, I want to make sure that you know that as much as you hear about media corporations doing this or that, as much as you hear about not connecting with the real people of America or the real people of Tennessee, or in this case, the real people of the metropolitan area of Nashville, I assure you that this radio station, as it has been really since I've known of it, and certainly since I've worked here, this radio station has a level commitment, a commitment to you as family with us. And we're going to treat you that way. And so whatever happens down the road, you will never replace Brian Wilson, just as you never replaced Phil Valentine and the many, many names that came before those being really on probably the Mount Rushmore of this radio station. But just as you can never replace them, the commitment remains the same. And the voices may change to a certain degree and the perspectives may change to a certain degree, but the commitment to truth and the spirit of the United States of America and everything that encompasses the United States of America remains certainly on this radio station and in the hearts and minds of the people that try to inform you and educate you and entertain you on a daily basis, whether that be Ken Weaver, Matt Murphy, Dan Mandis, Chris Hand, whomever it might be. So I truly do thank you for allowing us to be a part of your lives in the way that you do. I know Brian feels the same way. I know every person that works at this radio station feels the same way. So thank you for that. Onward and upward. And as soon as we know what the permanent lineup will look like and how you go about fitting pieces into that permanent lineup, we will absolutely let you know. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number, 615-737-9986. With that said, it is Veterans Day 2024. I'm going to spend a few minutes on that coming up in a moment. Obviously, we're going to talk about the shakeout. We're going to talk about the week that was and the celebration that was and how over the weekend it seemed to turn ugly. And I had a moment on social media where I had just had enough of it. No, I'm not talking about the Georgia Ole Miss game. I'm talking about Republicans, our friends in the conservative movement, and maybe some of you libertarians as well. Can we not have a week of celebration before we start fighting amongst ourselves? But fight we are, and it's all about the Senate Majority Leader. We'll talk about it coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Guilty verdict in a 7-year-old murder of two best friends out for a hike. That's coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. He's back in the newsroom. Chris Weber's managing the show and the host, and I'm the host. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson today. And these Mondays and Fridays leading up to Christmas. It's 24 minutes after the hour. We'll get to your telephone calls. So just for those that don't know me that well, maybe you're not able to listen from noon until 3, my normal slot. I'm a little loosey-goosey on the telephone calls. In other words, I take all comers anytime they come. I appreciate you. My rules for telephone callers are pretty simple. Just number one, call only once per day. Number two, don't be boring. Number three, don't read to me. And if you don't understand rule number three, see rule number two. And that's it. That's just it. And the reason that I ask that you don't be boring is because this is how I earn a living. And if you're boring, then I quite quickly will be off the radio and they'll find somebody else to do this. So thank you for that. And try to keep on topic, but that's not really a hard and fast rule. I just beg of you that. So any calls? 615-737-9986. Let's talk for a moment about Veterans Day. We'll have David Corlew in here in just a couple of minutes. So I had an opportunity, and I encourage you, if you ever had the opportunity to visit Arlington National Cemetery, to do so. Now, I talk at length about Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day because Memorial Day is a day that the United States of America sets aside to remember those who sacrificed all in service to our United States of America. On this day, November 11th, we remember those who have offered themselves to service in any capacity and for any length of time to the defense of the liberties and freedoms that we enjoy in the United States of America. And we should remind ourselves, as I do on a daily basis, that so precious few, relatively speaking, protect the liberties and freedoms of so very many. Because it truly could be said that as goes the United States of America, goes the world. And I've seen different statistics on it. I looked up like 3 different sources on this. And at any given time in American history, between 6 and 8%. Now, it grew quite exponentially during World War II, as you might expect, and during Vietnam, as you might expect, compulsory service in the latter. But right now, for example, as of 2023, I see about 6.4% of the total adult population in the United States of America has served in the United States military. So if you think about that, if we have 100 people gather in a room, only 6 of them have been called to service, either in a compulsory fashion, because that's what happened during the Vietnam War, or on a volunteer basis. It's amazing. It remains amazing to me, the young men and the young women who find that American spirit in their souls so early in their lives. I'm not going to be that guy to tell you all about my regret, because it's not about me. But I did not find that in my heart when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I could spend an hour and a half telling you why I wish I did, but I won't bore you with that. The fact of the matter is I did not. But what that does present inside of me is an incredible respect for those that do. Now, an argument could be made, and I'm certain that some would make it, that, well, they're just, young boys or young girls, and they probably don't fully understand the commitment that they're making, the sacrifice that they're making, and that is well true. And we're lucky for that, I would imagine. But sacrifice they do, and commit they do. And I don't ever want to have a time when we talk about American men or American women dying in service to their country. I don't want that time. I don't think you do either. We don't want war. But as the great Ronald Reagan said, the best way to prevent further conflict and further bloodshed is to be powerful enough and to be strong enough to demand that the rest of the world abide by basic civil rights and abide by the concepts of basic freedom, human freedom, not American freedom, human freedom. And so by extension, 6%, just over 6% of the American population not only protects our freedom, but for those nations that are free around the globe, we truly protect theirs. Because there are entities that fight against that concept, that want nothing more than power and control. And frankly, I believe we defeated one of those entities at the ballot box last Tuesday. And thank God we have the ability to do it, because we do not have to take up arms in order to accomplish those things. In part, circle back to the entire point, in part because of those who put on the uniform and those that are willing to sacrifice everything in order to protect us and to protect some basic concepts like duty and honor and country. And so it's altogether right that we set aside a day to remember those soldiers. If you ever have the opportunity to visit Arlington National Cemetery, I would encourage you to do it. It is the best example of America that I can offer you. There is lush beauty, just tremendous beauty. Beauty like you would not imagine if you've never been there. Rolling hills and valleys and trees, stately trees. And you'll see people of all walks of life, of all shapes and sizes, old and young. Young people, you'll hear them, school groups, laughing and playing in the background. And through all of that, through the picnics and the walks and through the conversations and everything else that you see on the horizon, Washington, D.C., Virginia, and the like, everywhere you look is sacrifice. Everywhere. And that's what America's all about. We'll get into it with David Corlew in just a moment. Right now it's time for news with Ken Weaver.
3:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories on this Veterans Day. Full forecast in 5 minutes. A guilty verdict in the Delphi, Indiana murder trial. The jury convicting 52-year-old Richard Allen on all charges. The former pharmacy worker charged in the deaths of 8th graders Libby German and Abby Williams in 2017. Alex Perez with the reaction from people gathered outside the courtroom.
When word got out that the verdict was guilty on all charges, some people started screaming, yelling, clapping, applauding. Obviously, they were happy with the verdict. And then there was another smaller group of people who was here to support Richard Allen, and they were holding signs in his defense.
Allen convicted on 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of murder while attempting to commit a kidnapping. Now faces 130 years in prison when he's sentenced on December 20th. President Biden will host President-elect Donald Trump in the Oval Office on Wednesday to discuss the transfer of power to the new administration. Here's Selena Wang.
We're told by the White House that these two leaders are going to be discussing domestic and foreign policy issues. You can expect that President Biden is going to make the case for why he cannot walk away from aid to Ukraine. Now, I've been speaking to Biden administration officials, and they are very clear-eyed that there's not a whole lot they can do at this point to Trump-proof their foreign policy priorities. But I am told that they're going to continue to surge as much aid to Ukraine as they can in these remaining days that they've got left.
Here in Nashville, Metro Police say the 2 suspects in the shooting death of a man who was lured to a home in Donaldson in August are in custody. This is the case where police say Xavier Johnson was communicating with someone on social media, met her at a home on Maple Crest Drive, then was ambushed in the back of the home, shot multiple times, where the woman led him to. Clarksville police say while investigating a domestic violence call last night involving 18-year-old Jeremiah Henderson and 20-year-old Markeisha Kill, officers saw that both were wanted in Nashville on outstanding criminal homicide warrants for this crime, and both are now in custody. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, once you get past the airport, I-40 eastbound, you've got a crash blocking the left lane. Donaldson Pike, right there, exit 216B. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Uh-huh. I like it. Gonna let that roll. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for the big guy, Brian Wilson. He'll be back tomorrow. So I will do this more than you probably want me to, because with regularity, people are asking me to re-up this, particularly on the super text line, because people join us and they come and they go, and I love it. It's like a big party. It's like a big house party, and people are coming and they're going and they're leaving and they're moving and they're shaking and they're listening and they're not listening. Brian announced this past Friday that he is stepping back from his role as a full-time broadcaster on Super Talk 99.7 WTN after broadcasting for a full 50 years, and that's a long time. And so that doesn't happen until December 24th, so don't worry. But he'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of each week from now until December 24th, and that will be his last regular day, although he's going to be a friend of the station for, forever. On Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm also reminded, before we welcome in David Corlew, Chris, I'm reminded by many of our loyal listeners who also happen to be Tennessee Volunteer fans.
Oh, boy.
That it's hate week.
I don't have the energy for that right now.
I don't either. I got nothing for you.
Maybe
I don't know
by
what to tell you.
Friday I'll be back, but yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
For those that do not know, Chris Webber and I enjoy the wonders that is Georgia Bulldog fandom. We also, deal with the losses that come with that. Not many lately.
Yeah, there haven't been a whole lot of disappointments recently. No.
Real quick, have you noticed? Did you see the meme where it's like, "Oh, Kirby Smart is 48-0 against anybody but Nick Saban," and then when DeBoer beat us, it's like, "Well, we're 48-0 against anybody but Alabama."
Right.
And now we're 48-0 against anybody but Alabama or anybody that's ever worked for Nick Saban.
There you go. Yeah. We're covering all those bases.
But we're still 48-0. But maybe we'll get into more of that on Friday as we get a little bit closer to the game. It is Veterans Day. We've been noting that, and I appreciate all of you for noting that you are veterans in our audience. God bless each and every one of you. David Corlew joins us. I mentioned that David would be stopping by. He's with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, and I can think of no better person to talk to on this very special of days than David. David, welcome into the studio. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good.
God bless you.
It's a wonderful day, in so many respects. It's a day of patriotism. Originally, I think that was a part of the day when it was Armistice Day. It was a day of patriotism and service. And as it's moved through the years, now we're at a Veterans Day. It's when we get to say thank you to that small percentage of people that serve that you were speaking about earlier.
I could tell you the story only because I was in Birmingham for 20 years, and I had a great opportunity to talk to the many great patriots that ran the Birmingham Veterans Day Parade. And they often would reflect on Ray Weeks, who lobbied the government in the United States of America passionately way back in the 30s and 40s. I could look up the exact dates when it was Armistice Day, and said we ought to be honoring. And this was kind of in the midst of World War II. I think it might have been right in the aftermath of World War II, where he said we need to honor everybody. I mean, I appreciate that we're honoring the World War I boys, and thank you for that, but we should make sure that we include everyone. And he lobbied the government, and eventually the government said, "You're right," and they officially switched it over to Veterans Day. And so Birmingham, and I don't know if it's true or not, I mean, I'm sure that some other communities would offer their history of it, but Birmingham says that they were the first, quote, Veterans Day parade, because Raymond Weeks started a Veterans 2 years before there was an actual Veterans Day. He cranked up a Veterans Day parade and said, "This is for everybody. Let's go. Let's do this thing." But
it is. I was down at the Veterans Day parade today. Went down, and of course, I grew up with some of the guys that are involved with Tootsie's and all the places down through there. So we always have a special seat there. So go down and see some of my buddies that served in Vietnam and just watch it. And today, I don't know, it had a wonderful feel to it. It was pretty. The day was nice. A lot of patriots out, and actually had my friend of 60 years with me, Vietnam vet. and 3 young ladies came up. They were probably in their teens. They had old-style fatigues on, and one of them was carrying a flag, and this was my dad's flag that he brought back from Vietnam. And it was just great. There was a sense of patriotism in the streets of Nashville today, and I loved it.
I want to talk to you about that a little bit more, because I think I have some very, very strong reasons why that is, and some strong beliefs why that is. But it occurs to me, we ought to set aside every day, and we try to. I mean, we try to do our best to remember our veterans. Part of the reasons I feel so blessed being a part of the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project is because you guys do carry that torch every single day to try to do for the veterans what they need to be done for them because they've done so much for us. But it occurs to me that on the 2 days that we set aside, particular days, Memorial Day is the sad day. Memorial Day is the one that, we ought to be thinking about the ones that we lost. And today feels more like a day. I mean, obviously we remember those that we lost and those that have passed on, but it's more of a day of celebration of what the veterans mean to further the cause, right? It has more of it feels happier.
Oh, it does feel happier in a lot of ways. And what makes it so special is the percentages that you were talking about, and that small percentage of men and women that sign on that dotted line. And that's our prerequisite. When we help veterans, whether you served in administration, whether you served in Fort Drum, New York, behind a desk, whatever you did, you signed on that dotted line that Charlie said you were signing a blank check made payable all the way up to your life. And so it's a great day to say thank you. And that's what I felt on the streets. A couple of kids came up. Obviously, they could tell Ronnie was a Vietnam veteran. And I've called all my buddies today, and it's just, and there's such a different feel. Some of the veterans, some of my buddies that I hang with that are a part of Journey Home Project, they kind of glide through the day, and others are celebrating. And so I tell you, it's and if it wasn't for 99.7, if it wasn't for you guys, what would we do as a foundation? Or you guys keep it alive, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you inviting me to come by.
Well, it's an honor, and I can't let it. I mean, and we got plenty of time, and we'll do it for those tuning in. In the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk politics. 5 o'clock hour, we'll talk politics. But I wanted to start the show this way because this means everything. I mean, it truly does. And I don't try to overstate the case, but if you don't have men and women on that wall, quote unquote, or on that line, quote unquote, then we don't get to do all of this. We don't get to enjoy all of this. We don't get to have parades because I promise you that there are bad people that want to take over. There are bad people that want power and control over you.
A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from one of my brothers, one of my buddies, and they told me that there had been a couple of soldiers that were injured overseas, and it made me realize that, and it was during all the hoopla of the elections, and it's kind of America's at the mall, and our soldiers are standing on the line, and here there are 2 young men that are injured overseas. Nobody knows about it. Nobody will hear about it because they were working as a team and with the special forces, and it made me realize that America, as wonderful as today is, we need to be ever present and be aware that there's men and women every day, 24/7, that are in danger, that are fighting for our freedoms, fighting for us to go through what we went through last week with the election.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to remember that. And it's
and now more than ever, and not to, well, I almost said not to turn the conversation political, but I mean to do this. Our military servicemen and women, they never ask for outcomes. They guarantee the input, right? They guarantee that we get to go to the polls and that we get to pull a lever. They don't demand outcomes. That's not what the military does. But the outcome to me last week told me that we still value certain aspects of what they fight for every day.
I agree 100%. I had the same feeling that you did. I listened to you on the way in, and there was something about mine was a little bit delayed. The next day I woke up and it just felt different. It felt like, whew.
Yeah,
And so much a part of that is the fact that it made me feel like the country rallied, and is without me getting into politics, because raising money for veterans is a nonpartisan issue. But I felt like I was on the right path. Next day.
Right team.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute, though, because I'd be remiss if I had you in and we didn't. Because as much as we celebrate and we hug and we honor those, and so many vets, no matter what they went through, whether it was, a battle path or a combat path or a non-combat path, they all go through something. It's interesting. You mentioned the line from Charlie Daniels about the blank check, and some paid with their lives. Some, they don't know what the check's going to say when they fill it out. That comes later. Some pay with PTSD. Some pay with wounds you can't see. Some pay with wounds you can. Some, they are more fortunate and they escape and how can we help, I guess, is the question. I mean, we talk about it all the time. For those that are suffering, for those that are in need, what's the path? I mean, obviously, Charlie Daniels' Journey Home Project is a good way to start, but what's your advice to us?
Well, there's so much need. There's so little dollars. The VA, that's what the VA was put in place for, to help. They're overloaded. I see soldiers, veterans that love their VA. Some hate their VA. But the injury, whether it's visible or not, what we know for a fact, and I certainly don't have the market cornered on understanding PTS, but we know that when you leave home for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, when you come home, your life is different. Your family's different. You've been gone. Your wife's been taking care of the house. You've been gone, and so your life changes, and that affects each warrior, each soldier differently. And mental wellness is such a big thing for us. Is so much need for that. The helping them work through their VA benefits. Mm-hmm. Some of them are coming home that have a lot more disability, and they're not getting their due reward for that from the government for serving. And so the mental wellness, the jobs, giving them leadership positions. They have wonderful.
Listen, if I'm a business owner and I get some applications in, I'm sorry, if I see veteran service on that application, you've already got a gold star on your application.
Yeah.
Because I know you understand certain aspects that I want in my business. That you understand order and discipline, and you understand hierarchy. You understand how to get things accomplished and how to do things. That's what the military teaches folks.
I have a quick story. 4 Sundays ago. Hold
on, can you hold?
Yeah, I can
hold your story, because I'm getting the look from Chris Webber. He tells me that we've got to pay a couple of bills, and we'll be back with David Corlew in a moment on Super Talk.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories on this Veterans Day. Thank you, veterans. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, 2 arrests for an ambush and murder in August. After police investigating a domestic violence call in Clarksville last night saw that the 2 people involved had criminal homicide warrants. Here's Channel 4's Lydia Fielder.
20-year-old Markeisha Keel and 18-year-old Jeremiah Henderson are now in Metro Police custody for the murder of a young man from Clarksville. Police say back in August, 20-year-old Xavier Johnson was ambushed, shot, and killed in the backyard of this short-term rental home on Maple Crest Drive in Donaldson. Police say their investigation shows the woman they arrested and Xavier had been communicating on Instagram. She and Xavier got to the house just before 1 in the morning, where she led him to the back. That's where police say the man, her accomplice, was allegedly waiting nearby, running up on Xavier and shooting him multiple times. Then he and the woman went through Xavier's pockets and took what he had on him.
Well, after the murder, Channel 4 says they spoke to Johnson's family and they said he was very active in church. They say he was funny, kind, full of love, and they have no idea who would want to hurt him and that he must have thought that woman was his friend. A guilty verdict in the Delphi, Indiana murder trial. The jury convicting 52-year-old Richard Allen in the deaths of 8th graders Libby German and Abby Williams in 2017. More from Alex Perez at the courthouse in Carroll County.
The jury has found them guilty on all charges. Family members have been saying this is what they wanted. They wanted justice for Libby and Abby, and it appears right now they have received that.
Allen, convicted on 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of murder while attempting to commit a kidnapping, now faces 130 years in prison. A deadly 200-foot fall in East Tennessee. Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency says two men left a La Follette truck stop around 8:30 Saturday night. They drove a side-by-side onto the North Cumberland Wildlife Management Area and at some point in pitch black drove off of a 200-foot rock high wall, that is. 41-year-old Josh Mefford was ejected and died. The passenger, identified as 27-year-old Rick Violas of Oneida, was knocked unconscious and seriously injured. He's the one who contacted authorities after regaining consciousness 7 hours later at 3:30 in the morning. The crew were able to get him to a hospital. Mefford's body was recovered about 15 hours after the crash. President-elect Donald Trump making the first appointments to his new administration. Selena Wang reports these earliest names show a commitment to Trump's campaign promises on immigration.
Some of Donald Trump's earliest picks for his next administration in key roles are hardline people on immigration. These are staunch Trump loyalists, and we're learning from sources that he plans to name Stephen Miller as his White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Now, Miller is a longtime aide of Donald Trump, and he was the key architect for Trump's hardline immigration policies in his first administration.
Also today, we see Trump has tapped Lee Zeldin as EPA administrator. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash 24 eastbound at the 40 split. Highway Patrol on the scene there. Then just past the airport, 40 eastbound after Donaldson Pike. TDOT reporting a crash blocking the right shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is The Drive. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. Brian back tomorrow from 3 until 7. Thank you for indulging us today on The Drive. Hope your day is going well so far. It is a national holiday. It is Veterans Day, and we appreciate you being with us, and thank you. Any of you listening right now who have served your nation in any capacity, we so appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of our day, and thank you for what you have done to your nation. It is almost 9 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And once again, I am Matt in for Brian. If you missed it last week, I'll regurgitate this from time to time, and I apologize to you long-timers, you all-day listeners. But Brian announced his celebratory retirement from broadcasting, full-time broadcasting, I should say it, from television and radio last Friday. He's going to be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday man from now until the end of the year, and I'll be here on Mondays and Fridays, and here I am today. We were having a great conversation with David Corlew, and I begged for extended time, and thankfully the guy that I was begging for extended time was me, and so I granted it to David Corlew. But we were talking about Veterans Day and the power of the parade this morning, and David was in the midst of a story, and I did not want to rush him. I want to throw out a couple of statistics for you, though. For those of you honoring our men and women in service to our country, there are roughly, and this is a rough number, if you go to different sources, you get slightly different numbers, but roughly 15.8 million military veterans in the United States of America as of 2023, which represents 6.1% of the total adult population. More than 1 in 4 of our veterans are 75 or older. Nearly 31% of our veterans today served from September 2001 on, the most of any conflict period in the United States history. In Nashville, Tennessee, about 95,000 people per census data from 2023 have served in the United States military. And I'm sorry, that was Nashville only, that statistic, 31% from 01 on. Vietnam War era veterans are right behind that group at 30.8%, and the Gulf War period follows at 27.4%. David and I were just talking about this off air. Nashville veterans in the metro area, of our veteran population, only 1.8% are now from the Korean War, and a mere 0.3% survive from the World War II era. And David, you and I were talking during the break about, when we were much, much younger men with less gray in our beards. There was a time I remember distinctly hearing news reports on Veterans Day and on these special occasions that hey, one of these days we're not going to have our World War I veterans around. In the mid-1980s, it was all about how our World War I veterans were aging out and we were losing them. And boy, oh boy, I don't know how many we have left from the World War II, the greatest generation. But we are losing them as time goes on. That's the natural way of things. It's the way it goes. But your heart and your mind and your thoughts go out to the men of that generation and all subsequent generations that have served our country.
Well, I mean, and you can look at the Vietnam era. Those men and women are 70 to 80 years old now. So we're losing those. And when you think about it, when you think about this 20-year global war on terrorism, you had men and women that joined the military during the Cold War, during the 90s, not just to serve their country, but to get an education. The education benefits are wonderful. This is in 96, 97. Those kids turned around, joined the military, and in a couple of years, they're in the desert fighting. They're in Iraq fighting. Mm-hmm. Those veterans that joined the military when the trade towers came down are retiring. 20 years. They're getting their 20-year benefits. That's the magic number. So now they're retiring out. So the question, the challenge is, what are we going to do when that generation pulls out, which is happening right now?
Man.
And
Father Time's undefeated, David. Undefeated.
Yep.
I mean, that is true. America, I feel like a lot of times we're undefeated. We're not. That's what they tell me, but I'll tell you what Father Time is. But you were about to tell a story. And you alluded to a story that I want to circle back to, the unspoken conflicts that continue to go on. And, we like to think about the Trump time frame in his first term, about how he was attempting to extract us from these conflicts around the globe that seem to not have a definitive purpose or an end to them. and he did a lot of that. Sadly, he was not able to finish the Afghanistan withdrawal. I think it would have went a lot better were that the case. But we still have men in war zone, man. And you mentioned that there were 2 that got injured recently.
Yeah, there were a couple of soldiers that were in the Middle East, and they were injured just a few weeks ago. And the point being is that there's someone fighting for us every day, every night, 24/7. The Middle East is on fire, as we all know, and I'm just not sure America realizes that. And what brings to mind for me is with those men and women that are still fighting. We have the men and women that are at home that are fighting the ghost of the past war. And I was going to share with you on 3 Sundays ago. Great Sunday. I'm at the ranch, maybe saddle a horse, getting ready to do something. I get a call, and it's from a friend of mine. I haven't seen him in quite a few years. He says, hey, he said, man, I got a buddy that's in really bad shape. And I go, bad shape this week, this month? He said, no, right now. So I said, give me his number. So I call him, and he tries to talk to me, and he's sobbing, and I go, why don't you try to breathe? And he goes, I can't quit crying. Finally he stops, 20-year veteran. He fought the global war on terrorism, Ranger, has a great day job, and he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so when you asked me earlier, what this is what we do. This is what the Journey Home Project is all about. And I told him, I said, will you just keep crying and give me 2 minutes? And I was able to get on another phone in the house. I made a call, and in 58 seconds, we work with an organization called American Veteran Families. We've got your 6. In 58 seconds, they had 7 people on the phone with this soldier. They had a clinician. They had a clinician talking to his wife, and they talked to him. I was off the phone. I stayed out of the conversation. They had a command sergeant major get on the phone with him. That was Sunday afternoon. I was on the phone with him an hour. He was on the phone with them for 6 hours. After that phone call Monday morning, we had someone at his door. They have a quick response team. Guy flies down, helps him fill out his paperwork. Tuesday morning, we put him on a plane with an escort, headed to Utah to treatment.
That's so good.
And I just got a text from him yesterday. He said, I'm doing great. The Journey Home Project saved my life. I said, no, you saved your own life by asking for help.
That's so good.
So that's what we need to do. We need to call our friends, check on your buddies that served, volunteer somewhere, donate. Man, $5, $2, and it doesn't have to be the Journey Home Project. That's my motto. Donate to somebody.
Right.
I don't care who you donate to.
Right.
We need the help. These men and women need the help. They have been.
And we have far too many of them on the streets. And I know that it's got to be, and David, you tell me if I'm saying this wrong, but if the resources are there, you've got to meet somewhere in the middle. They've got to crack the door open a little bit for us. But if you find yourself in a place where you see that crack, don't ignore it. Get in there. You can't force it. And for some, they say, well, you can't help people that don't want to help themselves and all that kind of thing. And I get it because sometimes the pain's too much. But if you see that crack, get in there and see if you can't widen that gap a little bit and help somebody, because you never know. I remember people ask me, you do this long enough, and people say, well, what are memories that you have of radio? And there was a guy when I was in Birmingham, Alabama, by the name of Ronald Simoneau. And everybody knew Ron as Liberty Bell. Ron was a flamboyantly gay man who dressed in drag and called himself Liberty Bell and would call conservative radio just to antagonize me. And he was good at it. And I got to know him over the years, and he was kind of a foil. He was the heel of the radio show. And I got to know him offline a little bit, and I knew his backstory. And one day he calls me off the air and told me he was going to kill himself. And I, talked to him, and he said, nobody wants me, and he went through some of the mental trial. And I'm no therapist. I'm nobody to be on this phone, and I recognize that. But I said, I need you to do me a favor before you do anything rash. And he said, what? And I said, I need you to come on the radio and tell people about your service in the United States military. Because I knew he served. He served on a submarine for 2 years. And I said, nobody knows that, and they need to know it. And it got him out off kilter, right? He wasn't, I'm like, I need you to do me this favor. If you got to do what you got to do, that's fine. But I need you to do me a favor. And you see kind of where and he goes, well, okay, I'll do that. And we scheduled it, and I had him on the radio, and I knew, and I get choked up about it. I knew what the audience hated this guy, but I knew what they would do for him. And they did it. I didn't do anything. They did it. And the outpouring of love for that one soul saved him, and he lived for another 10 years or so. And I if you see those cracks, take them. That's what I tell people all the time.
You have to do that, and it's imperative that we continue to look for those signs, and they're so small. And I mean, in the mental wellness, that we've found, the help. There's some wonderful institutions that Warriors Heart, Shepherd Center in Atlanta. They do incredible work. But boy, some of our investments we've made in the songwriting programs and the equine therapy programs, and man, these are guys that they're like a functioning alcoholic. They're functioning in society, but they're so locked up and they've got so much stuff in them. And boy, these programs, these simple, inexpensive programs, which can even just be a cup of coffee with somebody, even if you don't see the signs. If they serve, take 10 minutes and go 15 minutes, go sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk. And if there is a crack, you'll see it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I want to finish our conversation before we say goodbye on a higher note. I mean, the parade had to be just a wonderful experience. And you mentioned right at the beginning of the conversation, for those who are just getting in their cars, that during the Veterans Day Parade, there was just a spirit that you saw. And I love it. I love talking about the young people coming down and supporting either family members or just supporting folks that they meet on the street. And I love hearing those types of stories.
Yeah, it was as I said, a 60-year friend of mine that I've met when I was 14 years old, a Vietnam veteran. Will not talk. 60 years we've been friends, and he will not talk to me about Vietnam. He knows what I do. He handed me some cash for Journey Home Project today, but it's very obvious. You can tell he just looks like a Vietnam vet. He's got the headband, and he's got his vest on, and we're walking down the street, and these young ladies, they had to be high school age, and they were carrying a flag, the frames, the triangular flag frames. One of the little girls had it, and they'd gone to the Army surplus store and bought some fatigues and put them on. And I assume it would have to be her granddad's. It wouldn't have been her dad's flag, but it was her granddad's flag. And she said, "Are you a Vietnam veteran?" And my friend Ronnie said, "Yeah." And they said, "We just want to hug your neck and love you." And what it meant to me is to see young ladies like that and see young kids engaged. They were at that parade. They were there. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and they were there at that parade. And that's what our country needs. We need to educate our kids, and we've pulled all the history lessons out, and we've changed history. And kids need to know about the sacrifices, and that's how we're going to grow great patriots.
Well, that's why you're here. That's why we love you coming on and telling stories and just shooting the breeze with us. David, we appreciate everything you guys represent at the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. I appreciate your heart and your passion.
Well, me too, and I'm going to see you at the homeless mission.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We'll be there, and you'll be there, and that should be a good time trying to help folks at the Nashville Rescue Mission. Absolutely.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, David. There's David Corley with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. We'll shift over to politics in Washington, D.C., talk to you about this Senate Majority Leader race, which is, for some reason, gotten a lot of people upset. We'll tell you what that reason is in just a moment.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Suspects from an ambush and murder in August in Donaldson are in custody. Details coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It is Veterans Day. Thank you to all of you veterans. It's 27 after the hour. We're going to shift our attention away from conversation surrounding Veterans Day to conversation surrounding Washington, D.C., and beyond. Obviously, less than a week ago. Man, it feels like longer than that, does it? In a good way, but it feels longer than a week, and it's less than a week when we all together, collectively, whether listening on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, watching some of these media networks implode, or sitting in the Wilson County Fairgrounds in the big Ag Center building as we on Super Talk made the announcement that state after state after state, and we did not have all of these swing states by the time we left the airwaves and handed it off to Red Eye Radio. State after state went for Donald Trump. He wins all of the swing states, all 7 of them. The Republican Party is taking over the House of Representatives, it looks like. More on that in a moment. The Senate will be in Republican hands, and there will be a vote for some reason for Senate Majority Leader coming up this Wednesday. Now, a couple of things. The nature of the ballot. I don't like it. I don't care for it, but it's not my club. I'm not a part of Club Republican. But apparently the Senate decided a long time ago that when they selected their leadership, they were going to do so in secret. I think the Democrats do it the same way. So this secret ballot, I've been asked on a couple of occasions over the last 24 hours, why is it a secret vote? Kathy, as a matter of fact, not just the last several days or the last several hours, Kathy wrote in at 4:25 this afternoon, 4 minutes ago. Matt, what makes me mad about the Senate Majority Leader race is the secret vote. We, the people who elected these senators, have a right to know who they vote for. Well, we do. Only if we demand it. And so I would suggest that you demand that your leadership tell you either beforehand or afterwards who they voted for. Now, we have 2 senators in the state of Tennessee, as does every state in the union. Senator Bill Hagerty has been quite clear where he is on this. Senator Marsha Blackburn has not. I've been in contact with her office, and I have made contact with said office. I've not talked to the senator herself, but we have invited her on either the drive or my normal slot from noon until 3 at any point that she wants to come on and talk about it. And I spoke to someone in her office earlier today, her scheduler, who sadly informed me that her schedule was quite full until Thursday. Well, isn't that unfortunate? Full until Thursday. Full up until Thursday. Boy, oh boy, but on Thursday, we can talk. I'm going to reflect on that in a moment, and I'm going to tell you what you have the ability to do about it because, friends, no matter what they think, I'm not casting aspersions at Marsha Blackburn, Bill Hagerty, or anybody else, but no matter what they think, you're in control and you're the boss. And there's things that you can do to let them know that. It is 30 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
4:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories on this Veterans Day. Thank you to the veterans who have served our military and our country so well. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, police say the suspects from an ambush and murder in August are in custody. Clarksville police, while investigating a domestic violence call last night, saw that 20-year-old Markeisha Kill and 18-year-old Jeremiah Henderson were named on criminal homicide warrants. Channel 4's Lydia Fielder says Kill is accused of luring 20-year-old Xavier Johnson to a home in Donaldson where Henderson allegedly ran up and shot Johnson several times. His belongings removed from his pockets.
After the murder, we talked to Xavier's family, who says he was very involved in church and was funny, kind, and full of love. They tell us they have no idea who would want to hurt him and that he must have believed that woman was his friend.
A woman being held without bond in the Metro jail awaiting a hearing. Henderson still in jail in Montgomery County. He'll be brought to Nashville after his issues in Clarksville are resolved. Money news.
The major indexes didn't close at new record highs, but briefly reached them during Friday's session. The Dow gained 260 points, the S&P 500 up 22, the Nasdaq added 17. Axon Enterprise, which sells tasers and body cameras used by police officers, helped lead the market after delivering stronger profit for the latest quarter than analysts expected. It also raised its revenue forecast for the full year to over $2 billion, which would mean 32% growth. Expedia Group rose after likewise topping profit expectations. It says booked room nights rose 9% from a year earlier. Helping to keep the market in check was Airbnb, which sank after the online vacation rental platform posted a mixed third-quarter earnings report and issued forecast for the fourth quarter that disappointed investors. Digital pinboard and shopping site Pinterest slid after the company's revenue guidance also came in lower than investors expected.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a couple of crashes to tell you about. 40 eastbound at 4th Avenue. You've got the right shoulder blare blocked on the South Loop. Then 65 southbound after Harding Place. Crash there with police on the scene. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you, in for Brian Wilson. Brian back tomorrow on these Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You'll hear from Mr. Wilson all throughout the rest of the year. Thereabouts, I think, final day, December 24th. I'll be with you on these Mondays and Fridays, and more news to come about what is to come into 2025 and beyond. 615-737-9986. Would love to hear from you. Phone lines always open when I'm here. 615-737-WWTN. You can also hit us up on the membersnutrition.com super text line. Now, many of you have a bit of consternation in as much as we don't know where Marsha Blackburn is regarding her selection as Senate Majority Leader. It would seem to be a pretty straightforward decision. But I suppose as you get closer and closer to Washington, D.C., things get more and more nuanced. Now, Senator Bill Hagerty, who will be on with Dan Mandis and Nashville's Morning News tomorrow morning at 8:05. Tune in for that. Senator Hagerty has made his position on this issue quite clear, putting out a press release earlier in the week. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm about to grab it, although I've got to move through a lot of these late-breaking emails. Senator Hagerty, in a press statement, November 9, 2024, over the weekend, United States Senator Bill Hagerty today released the following statement. President Trump's massive coattails delivered a historic Republican Senate majority. As a result of President Trump's leadership, we saw Republican Senate victories in seats, i.e. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Montana, that have excluded Republicans for decades. Any leader of this new majority must be able to work hand in hand with President Trump to advance his America First agenda. The Senate must lean into advancing this agenda. That's why I want to see a Senate Majority Leader who can join me in embracing the Trump agenda, which will unify Senate Republicans. On Wednesday, I will be voting for Rick Scott. That is Senator Bill Hagerty releasing a public statement over the weekend. Now, I reached out to Senator Marsha Blackburn's office, and I spoke to two different individuals affiliated with Senator Marsha Blackburn within her office. And both of them indicated to me, and I'm comfortable to relate it to you, that online reports that she has made a decision, and I want to try to be fair here, as fair as I possibly can be. Because I think the play from Senator Marsha Blackburn here seems to be that she is not going to talk to us about where she is going to vote until such time as she casts that secret ballot. What we know after that is up to Senator Marsha Blackburn. But for those who don't know, and I guess I should give you a bit of the backstory before we move forward, right now the Republican leader is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell has been the longtime Senate majority, then minority, then majority leader. At 82 years of age, at his advanced age, he has made the decision to step down in his role before the Republicans officially take over as the majority party in the United States Senate. So he will step down as Republican leader as of this week. Why this is happening now? Well, there's a lot of questions as to why it should happen now as opposed to when the new Congress is sworn into session in January. But the bottom line is this. There will be a vote for leadership, and that vote for leadership is expected to continue on into the new Congress. And the expectation is that we will know Wednesday at some point after the votes are cast and counted who will be the new Senate Republican Majority Leader. The Majority Leader in the Senate, by the way, for those of you in Aniana, I'll explain it to you. The Senate Majority Leader sets the agenda and the schedule. So there's tremendous power in the ability to do that. You get to determine, you don't determine necessarily the full body's Senate rules, but you do set the schedule as to what comes up on the calendar and what does not come up on the calendar. And obviously that wields a tremendous amount of power as to what you prioritize and what you do not prioritize. And the Senate Majority Leader, whether they be Democrats or Republicans, they can rule with somewhat of a heavy fist, or they can be a little hands-off in their approach to how they run things. Mitch McConnell has been, I want to be charitable toward an old man. Man, look at Donald Trump and look at Mitch McConnell. They're only like 4 years apart. And my goodness gracious. I mean, Donald Trump is working 14-hour days, 16-hour days. He was up 20 hours on Election Day. I mean, he's just working it, and his energy seems to be endless. And then you look at Mitch McConnell, and, well, he freezes. The man, like, literally freezes. And I'm not knocking him. There's a big difference. But Mitch McConnell's time has ended in service to his state and to his country as majority leader. I don't believe that he was very good. I will give Mitch McConnell one note of credit. And some of you won't like it. Well, 2 notes of credit. I just thought of another one. I know that you don't like Mitch McConnell, and I don't like him either. He's far too chummy with Democrats. He's far too chummy with those that would want to, quote unquote, fundamentally transform the United States of America into a nation that we don't recognize. But I will say this. Mitch McConnell held the line as majority leader in the United States Senate and got Brett Kavanaugh across the finish line, got Amy Coney Barrett across the finish line, got Neil Gorsuch across the finish line. Mitch McConnell further held the line, if you go back a little further than that, when Barack Obama was finishing up his second term and when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, Mitch McConnell said, no, we're not doing this now. We'll do this when the new Senate comes into session. We'll do this with the new president of the United States of America. We're going to select a new Supreme Court justice based on what the people tell us they want, and only when they tell us they want it. And a lot of Washington, D.C. insiders went bonkers as a result, because there's like 7 months of time between Bader Ginsburg dying and a new Congress convening and a new president being sworn in. But Mitch McConnell held the line there, too. And if we're going to ding him on his failures, we ought to give him credit for his successes. But we turn the page, as the Harris Walls folks told us we needed to do, to new leadership. And there are 3 candidates that have thrown their hats, proverbial hats, in the ring. South Dakota Senator John Thune, Texas Senator Cornyn, and a relatively new candidate to the process, although he ran against McConnell last time around, Senator Rick Scott from Florida. Senator Rick Scott has run as a committed Trump supporter. He is putting his hat in the ring as a voice for the Donald Trump agenda in the United States Senate, and said that he would be in full-throated support of the agenda items coming from the White House into the Senate. As a result of his leadership position, he would have great ability to put those in the front of the line. That's good news. John Thune, well, he's been a little back and forth on Donald Trump over the years, and I've got a couple of pieces of audio John Thune has not been a friend of Trump. Going so far as to say in October of 2016 that Donald Trump should not be on the ballot and should be replaced by Mike Pence. Going so far as to say that Donald Trump should never be considered as a candidate for public office again after January 6th. Well, whatever you think of those 2 moments in time, I don't think John Thune, whatever he says, is going to be necessarily a friend of the Trump agenda in the way that someone else might be. How about John Thune on, as recently as last year, on whether or not he would be supportive of a Donald Trump presidency?
Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. Would you support him?
Well, I'm hoping, Leanne, to have other options.
I'm hoping in the end we have other options. So he couldn't even bring himself to say that if Donald Trump were the nominee, whether he should support him. Senator John Thune from October 8th of 2016 on the social media platform then known as Twitter, now known as X. Donald Trump should withdraw and Mike Pence should be our nominee effective immediately. Now, I'm just one schmuck with a microphone, okay? But as far as my analysis goes, what did the American people say loudly and clearly Tuesday night? Did the American people go to the polls and vote for John Thune? Did the American people go to the polls and vote to support an agenda created by John Thune? The American people issued a mandate last Tuesday, and that mandate was in support of Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump. And at the risk of feeding the trolls that would like to believe that Trump is an authoritarian, let me tell you something. This is not that hard. Bill Haggerty gets it. Senator Blackburn, pick up the phone, call Donald Trump, ask Donald Trump who he wants to be Senate Majority Leader, and you vote for that person. And that is the end of this discussion. And I don't care about Senate autonomy. I don't care about the importance of keeping the body separate and distinct from the executive. Oh, you can talk to me about that Washington garbage till the cows come home. The American people want to make America great again. We need an ally in the Senate to do that. Is John Thune his ally? Don't even get me started on John Cornyn. Don't even get me started. Now, this is not my pick. This is not your pick. It's her pick. And in deference to Senator Blackburn, she just got a mandate too. Marsha Blackburn just won the state of Tennessee by 30 points. Just under what Donald Trump just won in margin. So she fears no man, not me, not you, not anybody. But I do believe this. I believe it is a tactical error on the part of, and look, I'm friends with Marsha. I like Marsha. Hopefully Marsha will come back on the show at any time that she wants to. We are open and available to her. But I have to speak truth. It is a tactical mistake for her to hide her vote prior to making it. The people hate it. They just hate it. It just feels icky. It just feels wrong. What are you doing? You don't know these people by now? You don't. She has said, and the two people that offered me this information, I have no reason to doubt them. But I had two people in her office tell me that she has not made a decision about how she's going to vote. And for me, that's almost worse than just telling me she's not going to tell you until she votes. What I would prefer is for her to say, Matt, she does not want to announce the way she's going to vote until she does so, and then she'll come on and she'll talk about it. Because I don't believe for a second that Marsha Blackburn doesn't know who she's going to vote for. And it would be worse if she doesn't. Right? Like, if she's been around John Thune and John Cornyn and Rick Scott for this amount of time, and she's been around Donald Trump, how in the hell 2 days before this vote happens do you not know who you're going to vote for? Now, what she says, in deference to her, is that, hey, we're having this big meeting tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and everybody's getting asked questions, and she wants some of those questions answered. Okay. Let me tell you something. The people of Tennessee have your answer. And it sure as hell is not John Cornyn or John Thune. And if you don't believe me, guys, just pick up the phone, dial up, and tell me who you want her to vote for. 615-737-9. I'm sorry for doing this to you, by the way, Chris Weber. 615-737-9986. Just let me know. It's the Drive with Brian Wilson, Matt Murphy for Brian Wilson on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, You put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories on this Veterans Day. And thank you to all the veterans there. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, police say suspects from an ambush and murder in August are in custody. Channel 4's Lydia Fielder 6. Clarksville police arrested 20-year-old Markeisha Keel and 18-year-old Jeremiah Henderson.
Last night, while Clarksville police were investigating a domestic violence call between this couple, they saw both were wanted in Nashville on criminal homicide warrants and arrested them. So the woman is being held without bond in the Metro Jail, waiting a hearing. Henderson is still in jail in Montgomery County and will be brought back to Nashville after his issues in Clarksville are resolved.
Yeah, police say on August 19th, the woman, after communicating with 20-year-old Xavier Johnson on Instagram, lured Johnson behind a home in Donaldson where Henderson allegedly ran up and shot him several times. A verdict in the double murder trial of Richard Allen, the 52-year-old found guilty in the 2017 kidnappings and murders of Indiana 8th graders and best friends, Abby Williams and Liberty German, which became known as the Delphi murders. The killings went unsolved for 5 years, but as tips came in, officials made an arrest in 2022. The trial began last month, and today the judge and jury announced the guilty verdict. Sarah Osbrook is a friend of both Abigail's and Liberty's families and shared her reaction with ABC News.
We got to remember it's not a closure. It's a new chapter for the families where you turn that page and then you go through the milestones of the girl's life. I mean, there's never closure when you lose a child.
Sentencing scheduled for December 20th. Richard Allen faces up to 130 years in prison. President-elect Donald Trump making the first appointments to his new administration. Selena Wang reports these earliest names show commitment to Trump's campaign promises on immigration.
We're learning from sources that he plans to name Stephen Miller as his White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Now, Miller is a longtime aide of Donald Trump, and he was the key architect for Trump's hardline immigration policies in his first administration. This comes as Donald Trump has named former ICE Director Tom Homan as his border czar. He played a key role in his first administration in terms of that highly controversial child separation policy. Donald Trump says that Homan is going to play a critical role in carrying out his deportation of illegal immigrants.
Meanwhile, here's the latest Democratic post-mortem following the decisive loss to Trump from the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Washington State Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
As much as it was wonderful for many of us to think about joy and love and beautiful things that we in the Progressive Caucus really love to think about as well, the reality is we also have to channel a lot of the anger that's out there about the fact that people don't have a fair shot anymore.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Ah, yes. Good old I-24 eastbound on the drive home. Right now, the first issue is going to be just past 440. You've got the right lane blocked by a multi-vehicle crash. Now, you get down to Laverne, and right there before Smyrna, you've got a disabled vehicle. The eastbound left lane is blocked, and so is the left shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is just after 5 o'clock. Good afternoon. My name is Matt Murphy, hosting The Drive for Brian Wilson today and Friday. And I'll just tell you why that is for just a moment. We'll get to your telephone calls right after that. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's well. Maybe you're just getting off work, getting in your car. Ken Weaver with just a delightful report about I-24 moments ago.
Ah, yes. Good old I-24. It's a pleasure.
I don't think it's a good idea to have a guy that has to drive on it report on it. That's all I'm saying.
He's got some personal feelings attached to that traffic report.
I feel like, much like my commentary about Marsha Blackburn and her Senate Majority Leader vote, I just feel like there's a little pent-up emotion going on underneath your report.
I-24. Oh, I love it.
No, you gotta just embrace it. Just embrace it.
Yes, sir.
It's just like it's like drowning in the ocean.
Yes.
Once you give up, it'll all be better. If you just give up.
That's a pleasant thought.
I'm never getting home. Just give up.
Yeah.
And it'll be okay.
Yeah, just run off into the woods and light a fire and
just go feral.
Yeah.
Just go feral.
I don't know, trade needles.
And oh my goodness.
Just have a good old time.
I'm sure there'll be some Mickey D's bags coming every once in a while. You can rummage through the old fries.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Good old I-24.
Every time I get angry at I-40, and I do this from time to time, going home about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, things get clogged up there right before the airport, right after Briley Parkway. And I'm listening to Ken Weaver talk about good old I-24 on the radio. And I think, as mad as I get at I-40.
At least it's not I-24.
At least she's not I-24.
Yeah, tire tools flying out of the back of trucks.
If you're dating I-65 right now, it might feel nasty. It might feel bad. You might think you've made some poor decisions living up in Goodlettsville or White House when things get clogged up right before you get to Madison.
Yeah.
But you're not dating I-24.
No. Big old rocks coming up from underneath dump trucks.
Pieces of concrete that used to be part of the road.
Yeah. Sprink.
I mean, no matter how ugly your girlfriend is, she's not as ugly as I-24.
No.
Unless your girlfriend's I-24 and you live in Murfreesboro. In that case, Ken's got a message for you. There's Ken Weaver back in the newsroom. He's gathering headlines. He delivers those twice an hour and when they break. Chris Webber's in control of the experience, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. And my name is Matt Murphy, and I'm in on the drive for Brian Wilson. If you missed it earlier today or last Friday, Brian made the announcement that he has begun retirement proceedings, retirement to culminate on December 24th. Congratulations, Brian. This is all good. He has been talking to us on the interior about this for some time now, as he expressed to you on the radio last Friday. We all wanted this election cycle. We want Brian for the rest of his life, but Brian deserves a wonderful retirement with some level of rest and relaxation, and by that, I mean cabana wife duties. And with that in mind, he'll be in for the remainder of the year on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I'll be here on these Mondays and Fridays when he's not here. And in my stead, normally I'm on from noon until 3, for those who don't know. And when I'm not there, Chad Benson will be in my absence. What happens into 2025 remains to be seen, and as soon as we know, we'll relate that to you. But I assure you that the commitment to live and local commentary on Super Talk 99.7 WTN is unwavering. And from Nashville's Morning News to Chris Hand to Matt Murphy to whomever might be in the drive, post to Mr. Wilson, we will remain here with you in our community talking about things that matter to our community. 615-737-9986. With that in mind, I promised to give you an opportunity to do this, but I just have to reset for just a moment. So in the aftermath of the historic victory, which was a clear mandate, and by the way, this is a mandate for America, by America, for one thing, and that is that we want to return to our level of greatness as expressed by our presidential candidate, Donald J. Trump. We want to make America great again in all of those wonderful ways that he had begun the process in 2017 and beyond. We were stymied in 2020 for just a moment, but we are back on track. And it feels good, doesn't it? It feels good to know that you look at Donald Trump's election night totals from 4 years ago, and you look at his total numbers today, and they don't change very much. He got a few more. You look at Joe Biden's election totals in 2020, and nobody in the mainstream media is talking about this, and I absolutely love it. CNN won't touch it. Hashtag never CNN. MSNBC won't touch it. ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post. Where are your expose stories on where the missing 11 million votes went? I mean, I'm just curious what your spin would be. I don't pretend that you'll be honest about it, because to be honest about it would be to destroy or at least to undermine a narrative that you've been furthering for the past 4 years. But right now, I'm looking at Donald Trump's totals, and he got good numbers this time around. He got better numbers this time around, slight margins, than he did in 2020. He outperformed himself in 2020, and in 2020, he outperformed himself in 2016. The Democrats lost 11 million votes. Joe Biden got 81 million votes in 2020. That's what we were told. 81 million. And Kamala Harris, the heir apparent to the throne, only managed a meager 70-ish million votes. And it just begs the question, if Donald Trump was such a danger to democracy, where the hell those Democrats go? They must not think he's very much of a danger. Or maybe they were dead in 2020 and they voted anyway. Or maybe they voted twice. Or maybe they just counted ballots they ought not to have counted. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, folks. I don't know. You tell me what. They just sat at home after the media told us that Donald Trump was Hitler for the last 3 months? They just sat at home? Come on now. But I digress. If there's one human being on planet Earth that is responsible for the message that was sent to Washington, D.C. last Tuesday night, it's Donald Trump. And I would suggest while the Congress of the United States remains an equal and separate branch to the executive one that Donald Trump will occupy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue come next January, the United States Senate would do well to understand who is responsible for that mandate. Now, I've heard a lot of rationale as to why our own Senator Marsha Blackburn, who won her own mandate last Tuesday, we're not shying away from that. Marsha destroyed Gloria Johnson, and we always knew that would be the case. But it baffles me that she seems so undecided regarding 3 candidates for Senate Majority Leader that she knows so well. Senator Blackburn has served with John Cornyn for some time now. Senator Blackburn has served with John Thune for some time now. Senator Blackburn has served with Senator Rick Scott for some time now. It would occur to me that she perhaps ought to know their leadership style. Yet still, here we are at 5:16 in the Central Time Zone on this Monday, November 11th, Veterans Day, and thank you to all of our veterans. We spent the better part of an hour discussing that earlier, if you missed it. It would occur to me that she ought to perhaps know where she is on it, but what I was told by 2 separate staffers is that she is undecided and that any suggestion that she has already picked a candidate is wrong. And I think they were saying that in response to reports that came out earlier today that she was going to vote for John Thune. There was a report, and apparently it's erroneous, because I'm going to take Marsha at her word. I'm going to take her staff at their word. That apparently there was a report out and, several reposts on social media that Marsha was a John Thune vote. And she says, no, she is undecided. And here's my response to that. I don't believe you. I just don't. Now, I'm not doubting anybody. I'm not saying anything. I just don't believe you. I will give you the benefit of the doubt when I say that, but I'm just telling you what my gut instructs me. And if I do believe you, that's almost worse. It's almost worse. Now, here's what I would have preferred if this is the way we're going to do it. And all I can be, I don't pretend to have the most astute inside the Beltway analysis. I just have my gut and I have my instincts and I have the common sense that God gave me. You either know or you don't. And I just told you that I don't believe that you don't know. But if you don't know, you don't know. And that's worse because you've been around these people for this long. How do you not know? If you don't want to tell me, just tell me that. Why does it have to be this way? Senator Blackburn, just come on Matt Murphy's show or come on the Drive with Brian Wilson or come on Dan Mandis's Nashville's Morning News and just say, listen, I do not want to impact any other votes. I don't want to impact how this vote goes. It has been traditionally a secret ballot. I know how I'm going to vote. And you, the people of Tennessee, just gave me a mandate to go to Washington, D.C. and use the sense that God gave me to make decisions. I'm going to make this decision. And then as soon as I do, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk to Tennessee about it. Would that not make you feel better about this? I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily like that either. Now, the people of Tennessee have spoken loudly and clearly. And we're going to hear from some of those right now. Lyle is in Columbia with a thought on Marsha Blackburn. Hello, Lyle.
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Lyle.
Good. I shared with the screener guy that I jumped in 2010, got to know Scott Deserlay and his staff for the next 4 to 6 years. 2014 rolls around. It's one of those elections. We've had several in the last 14 years where we have to get the Senate, and we did. Within 24 hours of that happening, John Boehner and Mitch McConnell both came out and gave us the proverbial middle finger once again and said they were not going to tighten up on the purse strings, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So I immediately sat down and I penned a 500-worder to my friend, Scott Deserlay, and asking him not to vote for Boehner. This is 48 hours after the election. We're still 2 months away from electing the speaker, and I know Boehner's going to win. But I put in there, your political cover can be found, Scott, by doing something you've done many times. You've asked all of us what we thought about something, and you really did listen. So Scott did not initiate that, but someone else did, and it became one of those issues where congressional offices were tabulating yes and no votes, yeas and nays for Boehner or not Boehner. The day or two before the vote, I talked to my friend, communications director guy. Robert, what's the numbers looking like, man? He said, wow, it's crazy. Well, you won't believe this. It's like I'm paraphrasing a little bit. It's about 7,000 votes for get rid of Boehner, and it's about 9 votes for keeping Boehner. Okay, thanks, Robert. Appreciate the help. So I immediately called Marsha's office. And I always tell them, okay, my parents, I'm not in your district. My parents are. They want to know what you're doing. And are those your numbers looking like Scott's? And the staffer told me, yes, they are. Thousands to not very many.
Okay.
Well, 6 weeks later, they go down to cast their real vote for the speaker on the floor of the House, and Scott was one of 11 or 12 people, representatives, who voted no. He told Boehner that morning, Robert called me and said he just left, went down speaker. I'll call you as soon as he gets back.
Lyle, I'm sorry to do it, but I've got to get to the point. I'm just real late on time. Well, jump to 2024. What's the point?
Marsha did not listen to her constituents 10 years ago when it was about electing the Speaker of the House. And she'll do the same thing again this year unless somebody leverages and pressures her. And
well, look, it's not up to me, and some would suggest that that's what I'm doing right now. Not up to me, it's up to you. You're the boss, you're the people. I promise you, if enough people call Marsha's telephone number in Washington, D.C., and tell her how you want her to vote, I promise you if enough people do that, she'll vote the right way. If enough people do it. More calls coming up. Karen and Tim and Melissa and Rick and Rose, all of you on the way with your thoughts on this subject. It's Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson in the Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Well, Mayor Freddie O'Connell says his team is looking into what it would cost to get rid of the grocery tax in Nashville. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, man. Freddie O'Connell getting a little conservative religion over there now that he's got all his transit money.
Slashing prices.
There you go. Get all that sales tax money to go over to those sidewalks and reduce the cost of eggs. I'm all in. I mean, that's fine. Let us know. Just don't try to replace it with property tax increases, Freddie. We know how you work over there in Nash. Thank you, Ken Weaver. We're looking forward to that update. Looking forward to your telephone calls. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Real quick, several of you have asked. The latest report, everybody inside the Beltway tells me that when all is counted, that the Republicans will maintain control of the House of Representatives. They have control of the Senate. It's a 53-47 margin right now, and I think, or 46. I don't think they've called Arizona. There's one case out there, notwithstanding Pennsylvania, which McCormick has won, despite Chuck Schumer's antics in the Senate. I'm not going to let McCormick shut up. Get out of here. But right now, Republicans have 214 seats in the House. They need 218, obviously. Democrats have 204. There remain, 20 or so to call. And apparently on the most hotly contested races, Republicans are ahead by 4. So it looks like Republicans will maintain a House majority. A slim House majority, but a majority nonetheless. Okay, so what do you say to Senator Blackburn with regard to how you want her to go with Senate Majority Leader? Now, it frustrates me that we're not a week in and we're already having these fights, but it also baffles me why you would not go with the guy that got you here. The founder of the feast is Donald Trump. I mean, does anybody deny that at this point? That he got us where we are today, that he has the mandate? Now, publicly, he's not saying because he doesn't want to seem to put his thumb on the scale, and he's got plenty of other things to do, and we'll get into that after the news. But privately, y'all think he wants either of the Johns? He wants you to flush the Johns. That's what he wants. Flush the Johns and vote Rick. That's what Donald Trump is looking for. Tim is in Lebanon. Hello, Tim.
Yes, sir.
What's on your mind, Tim?
I appreciate it. It may be time for you to educate an idiot. I'm coming into this kind of late, so I'm not real privy. I've only been listening since I got back in the truck about 30 minutes ago. But is it possible that Marcia is being tight-lipped about this because maybe she, too, is being considered for the position? Or have I missed something?
I do not believe that she has thrown her hat in the ring, publicly or privately. Typically, these are public announcements. John Thune has publicly said he wants to be considered. John Cornyn has publicly said he wants to be considered. Rick Scott publicly announced this a week or so ago. These are typically things that are being made public, despite the fact that it is a quote-unquote secret ballot. But, I mean, I don't know. Crazier things have happened, I assume, but it is – I have had nothing come to me in a back channel fashion that would suggest that Marsha Blackburn wants to be Senate Majority Leader. But
okay, I mean, I'm just asking because I can't honestly think of any other reason why she wouldn't come out in support. So,
I mean, that's no, Tim. I mean, no, I appreciate what you're doing because I'm doing the same thing as Tim. I like Marcia, and I want to support Marcia, and I want to believe in her, and I'm also having a difficult time supporting her on any of this. It's just it's a very awkward situation, especially she's a woman that just won by 30 points in her Senate race. It is 30 after the hour on Super Talk.
.5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories on this Veterans Day. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, Mayor Freddie O'Connell says his team's looking into what it would cost to get rid of the grocery tax in Davidson County. He says they'll be looking at a number of things as they approach the fiscal year 26 budget. That's when Metro will have a new finance director, and they want to evaluate things, knowing that this is an appraisal year. Nashville Democrat State Rep Afton Benn filed a bill earlier this year to replace grocery taxes with a business tax, but it didn't make it. She's filed another one this fall. 2 people are in police custody for the ambush and murder of 20-year-old Xavier Johnson in August. Police say Johnson was communicating with a woman on Instagram and was lured to a home in Donaldson where she took him behind a home where a man came running up and shot him several times. The suspects then emptied Johnson's pockets. Fast forward to Halloween when criminal homicide warrants were issued for 20-year-old Markeisha Kill and 18-year-old Jeremiah Henderson. The very 2 people Clarksville police say were involved in a domestic violence call they investigated last night. Both were arrested once police saw they were wanted on those warrants. President-elect Donald Trump looking for Republican support as he seeks to push through his cabinet when he begins his second term. Here's Jay O'Brien.
What Donald Trump wants Senate Republicans to essentially say, yes, President-elect Trump, you can make these recess appointments and pretty much just jam your wanted cabinet through without the normal confirmation process in the Senate, which Democrats have said that they would gum up and try to slow down. This would, if Donald Trump got this power, allow him to essentially put anyone he wanted into his cabinet for at least 2 years.
Trump plans to name Stephen Miller as his White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Miller's a longtime aide for Donald Trump, and he was a key architect for Trump's hardline immigration policies in his first administration. It comes as Trump has named former ICE Director Tom Homan as his border czar, who Trump says is going to play a critical role in carrying out his deportation of illegal aliens. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got 40 eastbound on the South Loop. Right shoulder is blocked by an accident. Then 65 southbound, the on-ramp from Harding Place. That's a crash blocking the on-ramp partially. Then looking at Lebanon Pike and Fessler's Lane in Hermitage, you got a crash there with police on the scene. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is The Drive, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. Brian in on these Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Thank you for being with us. It is 5:38. We'll get back to your calls and thoughts on the decision on the part, or the lack of decision, by Marsha Blackburn, at least according to her staff, saying that she has not yet made a decision on Senate Majority Leader, that she is waiting until she has some sort of forum or conversation with these three individuals that she has worked with for a long time tomorrow night. And then she'll figure it out, and then it's a secret ballot, and one would presume that eventually we'll figure out how she's voting. Now, Senator Bill Haggerty has already told us. We'll put that on the back burner for just a moment, and welcome back to the show on the Murphy Show hotline, John Rich, our good friend and buddy of the radio station and the radio show, who is here on this Veterans Day. John, what's going on? Happy Veterans Day, man.
Happy Veterans Day, brother. Thanks for having me back on.
Man, it's always a pleasure. You know, I was talking to, I know it's a mutual, David Corlew, longtime manager of Charlie Daniels, who helps with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. He was in with me earlier, and I commented to him, and I'll comment to you, that, you know, obviously we set apart 365 to celebrate our veterans, obviously every single day of the year, but two special days, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And this, obviously, Memorial Day is the one that we remember those who fell in service and sacrificed to their country. This day is one, you know, it's a spirit of celebration because we celebrate the freedoms that all of those veterans provide us.
Correct. We have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the only reason those exist is because of our vets, those men and women willing to do whatever it takes, including dying if they have to.
That's right.
To keep them alive. Veterans Day is every day as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you're doing something a little special in celebration of Veterans Day and to try to do something to help our veterans. And I wanted to have you on to tell everybody about it. Talk to us about this thing, the Old Glory Bank.
Well, I appreciate it. So, yeah, Old Glory Bank is a bank that I co-founded with Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, Mary Fallon, a former governor of Oklahoma, and a lot of other patriots got together and said, we need to start a bank that promises to not penalize Americans for exercising their constitutional rights. And we all watched Justin Trudeau turn off the bank accounts of the truckers. That's how he blew them up. We know Dinesh D'Souza, Dr. Simone Gold. You can go down the list of patriots who have had their bank accounts canceled on them at the absolute worst possible times. And we said, we need to build something that ain't going to treat people like that. So Old Glory Bank was formed. Because it's Veterans Day, we thought this was the perfect day to really make this announcement official. We've been working on it for a long time. But we have this thing called Old Glory Protect. And what that is, if you are fire, police, border patrol, or military, including the National Guard, and you open an account at oldglorybank.com, we will have a $100,000 life insurance policy for you in the hopefully unforeseen event that you die in the line of service and service to others. There's $100,000 coming to your family. There ain't another bank on earth that has a heart like that or doing things like that. So I wanted to talk about it because, listen, a lot of people are looking at their banks, and they just saw the stories not long ago where Bank of America and others were turning over basically the shopping lists of their consumers. The federal government goes, hey, where's Matt Murphy shopping at? And they go, oh, here you go. Here's his receipt list. Oh, he's at Bass Pro. He's at Walmart. He's where they just turned it over. And they were under no pressure to really do that other than they just love to play with the federal government. So Old Glory Bank stands in stark contrast to all the woke banks out there.
Well, and it's done, and I just want to reiterate and reinforce this. It's correct me if I'm wrong, John. It's all branches of the armed forces, law enforcement, firefighters, border agents. So really, any of our patriotic Americans that are in service that put on the uniform on a daily basis. Am I right?
That is correct.
Oh, that's so
correct.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Listen, man, it's the least we can do. Like I said, oldglorybank.com. You can actually open an account in under 10 minutes. Oh, and Matt, guess who you get to talk to when you call the phone number and you want a little help with your account? You get to talk to an American woman or an American man. What a change, huh? You can understand them.
I just want to be able to, that's what I was about to say. I just want to be able to understand them. That's all.
Yeah, man. This is it. This is the most red, white, and blue bank that's ever existed, oldglorybank.com, and we are so proud of our veterans. all of our servicemen and women for what they do for us every single day.
Every 440th caller gets to talk to John Rich himself. That's my understanding. I don't know. I'm just reading this, John. I don't know if that's true or not. But look, just while I have you, and thank you to all of you guys at Old Glory Bank. And I do, you know how much I appreciate, how much you appreciate the men and women who don the uniform on a daily basis. But with that in mind, while I have you on the phone, we've not talked since, man. Your thoughts about Tuesday night, last Tuesday. What about that?
You know, I look at last Tuesday night kind of like the Alamo if the Texans had actually won. You know what I mean? They had us surrounded. There was no way to win. Everybody's like, we're going to give it the best shot we got, man. Come on, guys. I mean, we're probably going down with the ship, but one last hurrah, and then what do you know? You actually win. And I got to say, I'm so proud of my fellow Americans who were Democrats and independents and people that never voted for a conservative politician in their life, but they stepped across that line. They saw what was at stake, and they took action, and they had their voices heard, and now we have a future going forward in this country. It was absolutely, I would say, one of the greatest nights our country has ever had. I mean, it truly did reinvigorate me in as much as I'm naturally a pessimist. John, you and I talked about this the last time you were on my show, and I was worried that the media had pounded us with lies and misinformation and negativity so much that people had bought in. And I wake up the next morning and I think, man, the American spirit is still alive and well. And for most of those liberals that have been duped by the media, that have been duped by lies and misinformation, I don't blame a lot of those folks, but if they will just open their minds to what's about to happen over the next 4 years, they're going to see the real America emerge. I think the results are going to speak for themselves. Anybody that's been brainwashed into thinking Trump is coming for them and going to wreck their lives, they're going to see things improve in this country so dramatically they're not going to believe it. I mean, it's going to be astonishing, I think, what he's going to be able to pull off. I heard you talking about the Senate leader and getting that thing worked out. And, Marsha Blackburn, I actually texted with her this morning, and I asked her about that. And I said, listen, me personally, I've seen Thune and I've seen Cornyn trash President Trump recently. I don't trust them. The people don't trust them. I ran a poll on my X account today at John Rich. Last time I checked, it was close to 200,000 votes, and it was like, basically, who do you think should be leader of the Senate? Rick Scott, Thune, Cornyn, and it was 99% Rick Scott. Okay, so I hope they listen. I also hit up Ted Cruz today. I sent him the results of that poll, Matt. I said, check out this poll, Senator. This is what the people want. So I hope they respond and put somebody in there that will not stand in the way of this mandate that was delivered last Tuesday. Absolutely love it. Love what you guys at Old Glory Bank are doing as well, John. You know how much I appreciate you. It's my understanding, though, that we might lose John in Nashville because I have on good authority that Donald Trump's going to ask you to be the Secretary of Whoop-Ass. Is that correct? Who knows, man? Who knows? But I am proud of him, man. He survived every attack, including a bullet itself. So good for him, and I'm looking forward to getting this train back on the track. Love it, man. Love it. Appreciate what y'all do at Old Glory Bank, okay? Thank you, boss. Take care. Take care. There's John Rich spending a couple of minutes with us on the drive with Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, A Great American. Karen is next. Speaking of great Americans, hey, Karen, thanks for holding.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great.
I'm good. I would just like to say I voted for Marsha Blackburn, and I have faith in her. I think she does support the Trump agenda, and I think she's just, because this is supposed to be a secret ballot, I think she's trying to extend that. You know, Mitch McConnell asked for that, and I think she's just trying to be kind, you know, and trying to keep the ballot secret. I really think she's going to listen to the people. I have faith in her, and I just want to extend her a little grace. Well, I mean, I have all the respect in the world. I mean, I voted for Marsha Blackburn as well last Tuesday. I think obviously, I don't think, I know most Tennesseans did, because we see those numbers and those results. So for the number of, what do you make of a lot of our listeners and a lot of people that communicate with me
some of them weren't aware that this is a secret, quote-unquote, ballot, that the senators are under no obligation to tell us who they voted for. Do you think would it impact you, I guess I'm asking, Karen, if she didn't ultimately tell us, or do you think that she will, or does that change your attitude either way?
I mean, I had prefer transparency. I mean, if it's we, the people, right, we prefer to know how our leaders are voting, not just what they're saying. You know, we listen to all their speeches. We listen to, you know, all their campaigning. But where the rubber meets the road is how they vote. And I personally support transparency.
You know, I feel like, and if I would side with Karen for just a moment, thank you, Karen, for the call. You know, it is entirely possible, and here's where, if you want to accuse me of hedging my bets, that's fine, because I've made my position known on this. I don't understand why you can't go ahead and say it, but it is entirely possible that come Wednesday or Thursday, probably Thursday it would be, that we hear from Senator Blackburn and she tells us that she voted for Rick Scott and that she heard the voice of the people and Rick Scott's the next Senate Majority Leader and all is well with the world. I mean, it is entirely possible that that is the result of all of this. And so I don't want to get whipped up, and I don't want to whip anybody up into a frenzy. Yeah, I mean, obviously, on social media, I was asking the same question. A lot of people were hitting me up, and they were worked up about this. And Marsha's voting for Thune, and why is she doing that? And he doesn't like Trump. We're all upset. And my question to almost every single person on social media is, did you vote for her last Tuesday? I mean, most of you did. Most of you did. I've seen the numbers. So we had faith enough to vote for her. Then, so let's just, I mean, once again, I know that I'm hedging my bets, but let's see. And wherever the chips fall, now, here's where I'm going to lose my mind. If I get told, well, Matt, it's a secret ballot and we're going to honor that and keep it secret, I'm going to lose my junk. Because that's not what I vote for. I don't vote for that kind of nonsense. I understand the spirit of the secret ballot and all of that, and we got to be colleagues and friendly. And tell us who you voted for, and tell us why. Defend that vote. 51 after the hour. It is Super Talk 99.7 WT. And when we return, Tennessee went more red than any other state between 2020 and 2024. And I have a few reasons why I think that happened. Not the least of which is me. Back in a moment on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
6 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories on this Veterans Day. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, 2 arrests for an ambush and murder in August after police investigating a domestic violence call in Clarksville last night saw that the 2 people involved had criminal homicide warrants. Here's Channel 4's Lydia Fielder.
20-year-old Markeisha Keel and 18-year-old Jeremiah Henderson are now in Metro Police custody for the murder of a young man from Clarksville. Police say back in August, 20-year-old Xavier Johnson was ambushed, shot, and killed in the backyard of this short-term rental home on Maple Crest Drive in Donaldson. Police say their investigation shows the woman they arrested and Xavier had been communicating on Instagram. She and Xavier got to the house just before 1 in the morning, where she led him to the back. That's where police say the man, her accomplice, was allegedly waiting nearby, running up on Xavier and shooting him multiple times. Then he and the woman went through Xavier's pockets and took what he had on him.
Well, after the murder, Channel 4 says Johnson's family says that Xavier was very active in church, funny, kind, and full of love, and they have no idea who would want to hurt him, and that he must have thought that woman was his friend. A guilty verdict in the Delphi, Indiana murder trial. The jury convicting 52-year-old Richard Allen in the deaths of 8th graders and best friends Libby German and Abby Williams in 2017. More from Alex Perez at the courthouse in Carroll County.
The jury has found them guilty on all charges. Family members have been saying this is what they wanted. They wanted justice for Libby and Abby, and it appears right now they have received that.
Allen, convicted on 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of murder while attempting to commit a kidnapping, now faces 130 years in prison. President-elect Donald Trump looking for Republican support as he pushes for recess appointments of his incoming cabinet members. Here's Jay O'Brien.
This would, if Donald Trump got this power, allow him to essentially put anyone he wanted into his cabinet for at least 2 years. This is a long-standing point of tension between the Senate and the executive branch, and it's really unclear if Senate Republicans are going to be fully behind this. But there are some names who are, like Rick Scott, who is mounting a long-shot bid to replace Mitch McConnell to run Republicans in the Senate.
Well, an AP history teacher is on administrative leave at a Southern California high school for his anti-Trump remarks after President-elect Trump's win last week. Here's Alex Stone.
His comments, secretly recorded, have gone viral online.
Why did he win?
Now that teacher has been pulled out of the classroom for using profanity and making strong anti-Trump remarks while addressing his students a day after the election. The Moreno Valley Unified School District says it does not condone the teacher's behavior. Some of his students are supporting him and now planning a walkout.
That's how he gives his lecture as a professor.
The district saying it wants an inclusive learning environment.
That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Well, you've got the brake tapping going on eastbound 24 all the way down to Laverne before you start picking up some speed. Now, we do have a couple of crashes still being worked. Crash right shoulder blocked 65 northbound right after Rosa Parks Boulevard at Metro Center. And then in Creve Hall, we've got the on-ramp partially blocked by a crash 65 southbound from Harding Place. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, here we go. Final hour of this Monday, Veterans Day edition on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's my episode 691 of our visits together on Super Talk. It is also, I failed to mention this, I'm in a little bit of a different slot here. For those who miss me from noon to 3, hello, my name is Matt Murphy. I'm in for Brian Wilson. If you have not heard, Brian announced his pending retirement happening at the end of the year. Congratulations, 50 years of public service in the entertainment and news gathering industry, both in television and radio. We appreciate Brian, and he's here. Don't worry. He's here tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday, and you'll get hopefully a good feel of Brian Wilson from now until the end of the year, and he'll be a part of the Super Talk family forevermore, and we will obviously lean on him 2025 and beyond for his expertise in the political arena and beyond. All of that to say, I'm here, and it's Locks for Trump Day 254. I failed to mention that. I'm a little bit disappointed that Weber cut his hair. I don't know why that is, because I have no real skin in that game.
That's been a long time ago, though.
I know. It's been like a year, right?
About a year and a half, probably, yeah.
You always kept it short, and then you grew it long, what, COVID?
Yeah, I just stopped getting it cut whenever we were told, oh, you got to wear a mask, get a haircut. I'm like,
yes.
How's that going to work?
To heck with that.
So I just stopped doing that for couple years.
I wonder, is Weaver back there in the he's still gathering news. He might be busy right now, though. I don't want to bug him. I was going to ask him how long he's been growing out that. How long do you figure he's been growing out that goatee?
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been probably 3+ years, I'd say.
Between has Brian Wilson, in your time with Brian, first in the mornings and then in the afternoons, has he ever had facial hair?
I mean, he did have a goatee for.
Okay.
And this is back just a year or so ago. The problem is that you have to be under the right lighting to see it because it's white. and I don't think, and I think he would tell you the exact same thing, I don't think he can grow a full beard.
I can't either. So I mean, you look at if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you'll agree. So until COVID happened, all of my adult life, I shaved every day because I tried to grow a beard when I was, 28, 29. Yeah. And it came out looking like this, and I thought, well, that's awful. That's not a full beard. That's not a robust, manly growth.
Yeah. It's almost on the Amish side. If you didn't have the mustache, it would be an Amish-type beard.
I could do you know what? When it's time to go, I thought about that I'll take the mustache first and just see how that works for everyone for a minute.
Oh, yeah, they'll love that, I'm sure.
I got compared to a honey badger the other day.
I don't, the coloring?
That's right. The markings. Uh-huh. And I don't know if that was intended to be a compliment or an insult, but I just chose to take it as a compliment.
Honey badger don't care.
Honey badger don't care, Ken Weaver. How long you been growing out that goatee, Ken Weaver?
Since 1992.
Has your wife ever seen you without it?
One time.
And what did she say?
Grow it back. Came out of the bathroom all proud after a shave.
Look at here, honey. Look what I did for you.
She said, can you put it back?
Can you just reset it?
I've been happily married ever after.
Oh, man. You got a lucky one over there, Ken. You do. You got a good one.
Mine just lies to me perpetually and says it looks good no matter what.
Mine does not.
Okay. I go back and look at pictures from years prior. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that looks so stupid?
I've been saying it for a long time, man, and I'll say it again. It did not bother me the day in my life that I realized I was no longer cool. It did bother me a little bit when I realized I never was.
See, that's why it never bothered me. Because I never was.
All right, back to the serious stuff. Oh, we got appointments after appointments after appointments with Donald Trump. Don't forget, Congressman Tim Burchett is going to join us at about 6:35 this evening. He'll talk about the House of Representatives, whether we are confident that Republicans will retain control of the House. That body, very important to get the Trump agenda through. We'll continue talking about Marsha Blackburn and her, I won't say inability, but her undecided nature when it comes to who she wants to be Senate Majority Leader. That's coming from her office, not from me. I'm not accusing her of anything. I'm just repeating what they have said, that she is, quote, undecided where she wants to go with Senate Majority Leader. There are 3 candidates who have thrown their hat in the ring. No word on whether another one will emerge. I don't know if it works that way in the United States Senate. And then there's Donald J. Trump. So 6 days into the certainty that he will be the 47th president of the United States of America. He is busy making selections, and I'm going to run down the list for you in just a moment. And I'm going to suggest to you a couple of additional names that might be coming soon. So far, first off, we got who it will not be. And this was great news for those of us who don't like the Swampers. Remember when Muscle Shoals had the Swampers? Well, now D.C.'s got the Swampers. And I don't care what letter you have behind your name, a D or an R or whatever. If you have been Washingtonized, that to me is a red flag. And you see it. And I worry about, I'll be honest with you, I've not been in Tennessee as long as some. I've been here longer than others. I worry about some of our elected leadership in the state of Tennessee going up to Washington, D.C. and getting to a certain degree Washingtonized. I'm talking to you, Mark Green. Oh, I didn't mean to say that out loud. They get Washingtonized up there. They enjoy it, the importance of the pin that they wear on the lapel, and they begin to believe that the world, the entire universe, just revolves around anything and everything that's going on in Washington, D.C. One of the reasons that I think the people of America voted for Donald Trump is because we know that the United States does not begin and end on the eastern seaboard in the corridor between New York City and Washington, D.C. It happens right here in Music City and the suburbs beyond, in the flyover country where the liberals and the Washingtonized Republicans never go. That's what Donald Trump represents. And so it has been said, and he is demonstrating it thus far, that in his second term that he will have learned from mistakes of the first. Donald Trump seemed to lean on the length of experience that some had in Washington, D.C. when selecting his cabinet, when selecting those that he surrounded himself with. And he seems to have learned from that experience itself the second time around, at least if we are to look at some of the choices that he's made thus far in terms of his cabinet and his subsequent executive branch positions. So one of the first things he said was, Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo will not be a part of my second term as president of the United States. To which, thank you. These are swampy people. These are Washingtonized people. I don't know them personally. I'm just telling you. Mike Pompeo, as CIA director, is a snake in the grass and has been for a long time, and is snaky enough that he slithered under the radar for the last 6 months on the off chance that Donald Trump got reelected so that he could pop his head back up. Hey, look at me. I have a level of expertise. Make me Secretary of Defense. No, thank you. No, thank you. Nikki Haley? No, thanks. Gave it a go once as UN ambassador. Not going to happen the second time around. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump named the individual that he would like to be his next ambassador to the United Nations, Elise Stefanik, who is in leadership in the House of Representatives. Never you fear, she's in a solidly red district. And so the expectation is in that special election, that district would go red again. There are several House of Representative members that have been named as possible cabinet-level positions or executive branch-level positions like United Nations ambassador. Frankly, the aforementioned Mr. Green has been a name that has rolled around from time to time, either HHS secretary. Some have suggested that he would do quite well on the southern border. Donald Trump named a border czar, Tom Homan, who is a person that I've had the honor and privilege of interviewing on a number of occasions. Tom Homan is a great American, and he's going to make a fabulous border czar. And he is already taking care of some business when it comes to his position on the southern border. Tom Homan suffers no fools gladly. Tom Homan, well, I'll just let, in his own words, Tom speak for himself.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
This is the guy. I mean, slay those dragons. Slay those imaginary dragons, Tom. You make it happen. Because that's exactly what they're presenting on 60 Minutes to him. That was an interview with Tom Homan on 60 Minutes some months ago. I am pleased to announce, Donald Trump said on his Truth Social, that the former ICE director and stalwart on border control, Tom Homan, will be joining the Trump administration in charge of our nation's borders. The border czar. He's not afraid to say it. Including but not limited to the southern border, the northern border, all maritime and aviation security. I've known Tom for a long time, and there's no better at policing and controlling our borders. Tom Homan will be in charge of all deportation of illegal aliens back to their country of origin. Congratulations to Tom. I have no doubt he will do a fantastic and much waited for job. Tom Homan does not suffer these fools that would suggest that there is, quote unquote, no way to get the job done. As a matter of fact, just after his announcement, just inject this into my very veins. The incoming border czar, Tom Homan, said this.
He was suing the sanctuary cities, DOJ suing the sanctuary cities, pulling federal funds. Of course, day one, when Joe Biden came in office, he stopped that lawsuit. So that has to be put back in place. And look, I've seen some of these Democratic governors say they're going to stand in the way. They're going to make it hard for us. Well, a suggestion: if you're not going to help us, get the hell out of the way, but we're going to do it. So if we can't get assistance from New York City, and we may have to double the number of agents we send in New York City, because we're going to do the job. We're going to do the job without you or with you. But it's much easier to arrest a bad guy. Like I just said, we're concentrating on public safety threats of human and national security threats. Right.
So you hear what he said there? You know, Chris Webber and I, while Ken Weaver was doing a tip-top job at the 6 o'clock news hour, we were talking about an unrelated subject. We were talking about the attitude of can do or can't do. The attitude of I'm going to figure out a way to say no, or I'm going to figure out a way to say yes. I'm going to make it happen. And if I come to you and I tell you that it can't be done, that means that it can't be done. Not that it won't be done or I don't want to do it. It can't be done. You hear what Tom Homan's saying there? He's not telling you the reasons that it can't. He said, we're going to do the job. I have been given a task, and I'm going to accomplish that task. And if you set a barrier in front of me to accomplish my task, I'm either going to remove that barrier, go over it, around it. I'm going to figure it out. So states, y'all need to be ready. You can be a part of the solution, or you can be a part of the problem. It's up to you. We have immigration law for a reason. This is not anti-brown people. This is not anti-immigrant. It's anti-illegal immigrant. And we have to control that, and we have to get a handle on that before we can deal with the second point, which is legal immigration. You see, Democrats have always been an impediment to legal immigration. I've been saying this for 20 years. That I believe conservatives and Republicans, dare I say the Chamber of Commerce Republicans, they have always been an impediment on the issue of immigration because they do not believe that they will be allowed to utilize the resources available to them on the back end to get the labor force that they want on the front end. So they've always been kind of neutral on the issue, allowing it to happen because it gives them a low-cost labor pool. Look, I'm just telling you like it is. But I've never believed, if given the opportunity, that they would not come along with the idea of actually securing the borders if I told them, once we do that, we're going to figure out what your labor needs are, and we're going to try to fulfill those needs. With American citizens first, and with foreign sources of immigrant labor second, through a legalized process of work visas. Is that not fair? Tom Homan's going to get the job done. In addition to Tom Homan, others that have been named for the Trump administration, EPA Director Lee Zeldin, former Republican candidate for governor of the state of New York and representative up there. Stephen Miller has been named as an assistant chief of staff over policy positions in the White House. Stephen Miller, a longtime voice within the Trump administration. He already last week named his chief of staff. I mentioned Elise Stefanik will be someone within the administration, and just named as National Security Advisor Michael Walz. Mike Walz is a current representative of the 6th District of the state of Florida, and Congressman Waltz. I said Walz. My apologies. A little PTSD. Not Tim. Not Tampon Tim. Mike Waltz. There's a T in there. And he will be the National Security Advisor for the Trump administration. What are your thoughts if I say Bill Hagerty as Secretary of State? What are your thoughts if I say, and he and I have had our issues over the years, Mark Green as Director of Homeland Security? I said HHS earlier, and I didn't mean it. I meant Homeland Security. Already, of course, we know some of the others in the administration, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., like Elon Musk as the Department of, what do you call it? The Department of Government Empowerment or whatever. I'll figure it out in a second. It's 23 after the hour. Seth and Melissa will get to you in a moment as Matt Murphy continues on the drive on Super Talk.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live. Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It's 27, almost 28 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and The Drive. Matt Murphy in for Brian. I'll be here Monday and Friday for the rest of the year. Brian Wilson here until December 24th. So a number of media organizations, they typically do, and I know Brian's talked to you about this in the past. For those of you on the way home, we thank you for being with us. Thank you for whatever time you're able to give us. I sincerely appreciate it. Let us know how I'm doing, how we're doing on the super text line and whatnot, 615-737-9986. Breaking news, according to several, there's a dump that happens like right around 5 o'clock where there's some vote counting that goes on in several states. They do it different ways. Some just do it in drips and drabs, but others, they do it in the morning or at night, but they'll dump the vote totals. Well, the vote totals have been dumped, and that has led several media organizations, including Decision Desk, which has been quite accurate, quite early. It's been one of the earlier organizations to call certain races, but they, to my knowledge, have not been wrong yet. That media organization, and I want to say Associated Press, but I've lost that for now, but I'll get it. They are now officially projecting that the Republican Party will keep control of the United States House. So that's good news. Full sweep. Presidency, Senate, House of Representatives, full sweep. Absolute demolition derby on the Democrat Party. 615-737-9986. Seth, real quick, we got you in Brentwood. What's going on, Seth?
Okay, so two questions. With Marsha Blackburn, if she, for some reason, doesn't support Senator Rick Scott, I guess what are the repercussions since she just got reelected? And the second question is, if President Trump does decide to pick Mark Green, do you think the alleged marital problems that he has had will be a major distraction for the administration?
Ask me the first one about Marsha again.
So if she, for some reason, does not support Senator Rick Scott, what are the repercussions considering she just won re-election?
Okay, so I'll tell you what I'll do, Seth. I'm going to let you listen online. I can answer them quickly enough to get to Ken Weaver in the newscast. So there will be virtually none. She just won a 6-year term. It might come back to hurt her 6 years from now, but typically voters don't have that lengthy of a memory, and she can do a lot to repair her decision-making against Rick Scott between now and then. I think the best chance that you have to impact Marsha's vote is to go ahead and let your voice be heard at her Senate office. Do it respectfully, do it responsibly, but do it because that is your opportunity to let her know where you are. On the other side of things, it could. I mean, if the mainstream media wanted to run with that personal story regarding Mark Green and his private life, they would. And it possibly could impact whether or not they would vet him. and they would find out about it because everybody in Washington, D.C. knows about it because his wife made sure that they did. So, and that's not me saying that's just, it is what it is. So that could potentially harm him in terms of a selection. It is time for the news on Super Talk. It is The Drive. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 639. Jumping to our Drive hotline where Congressman Tim Burchett awaits to talk with him about the results of last week's election and what comes next. Congressman Burchett, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you're doing well, sir.
I am well. How y'all doing?
Man, oh man. I mean, I'm still living in the afterglow. I mean, we're already fighting amongst ourselves over in the Senate, talking about Senate Majority Leader, but how you guys doing over in the House? You going to take the majority?
Yeah, I believe they just declared it just a few minutes ago officially. And they keep finding more votes in California, trying to knock some of our people out. I think they got one of them, but they can't get them all. So apparently we were just now I can't find the news source because I'm on my phone with you.
No, it's great news. No. I think Decision Desk HQ announced it, and I want to say there was one other, but that's great news. How important? I mean, obviously, I think we know, but I'd love to hear it from you, Congressman Burchett. I mean, obviously, that is it's key to getting the Trump agenda and the Republican agenda in place in 2025.
No question. If you want to shut the border down, if you want these crazy rules and regulations thrown out that have just hampered business. We they just announced earlier today that my good friend Lee Zeldin out of New York, he and I were in Congress together, and he went and ran for governor and almost actually won of New York, if you can believe that. They just made him head of the EPA. Elise Stefanik, another good friend, is going to be our representative at the United Nations, and she's strong and she's incredibly smart, and she really understands foreign policy and what goes on in all that. So, and you've got a guy like Stephen Miller, who's a strong advocate, who knows more, according to Trump, knows more about the border than anybody else. We've just got I think the team, it's going to be a strong, strong team, and we've got to continue on this path because we're going to be, well, we already are bankrupt, but we're going to be worse. We need to get out of these crazy wars. And could you imagine if Trump were to be successful? I don't think we got the guts to do it. I'd vote for it. But if he did the tariffs and did away with an income tax, that means somebody making $70,000 a year would bring home $70,000. You know what that would do to our economy? Just that instant influx of cash from people. It would be so dynamic that you couldn't even measure it. The stock market would go through the roof. People would be investing in this economy. We would start making things in this country again, and it would just turn us complete 180 over what we've been through. The people of Tennessee are suffering $600 at least. Some people at $1,200. Depends on where you live. I suspect people in Nashville are paying a lot more than people here in East Tennessee are through inflation. Just the out-of-pocket expense that has just grown exponentially in the last 4 years. So everything is on the table, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I have not, and our guest, of course, Congressman Tim Burchett, being called, by the way, on our text line right now, the most based congressman in Tennessee. How about that?
Well,
that's pretty good.
I was called that once before, and I had to ask my daughter if that was a good thing. But
that doesn't mean you're very based.
Yeah, that she, according to her, that is a very good and cool thing. So I tell the person who sent that in, if they're not a member of the Burchett family, I'm very appreciative of that.
I haven't seen a miss yet. I know it's early on, 6 days out before we got the results, or since we've gotten the results, but I've not seen a miss yet. Elise Stefanik to the United Nations sounds like a perfect choice. The best one, in my opinion, Tom Homan does not pull punches, and I think he is a perfect border czar, and Donald Trump's not afraid to call him that, in terms of cleaning this mess up and recognizing that laws mean things, and with it's not personal, it's just business, as they said in The Godfather, and we got to do what we got to do in terms of getting illegal aliens out of here.
100%. We've got these criminal elements are here. And Trump has said, look, well, and some of his people have said, we're going to focus on the people that have come over in the last 4 years that are just crippling our economy right now. We're paying billions of dollars more there's folks that have been here for years that they're going to figure something else out. Under Reagan, there was a good proposal out there, but it has since been gutted, and that's really about the last time a decent proposal has been put forward. And from what my research of the history of this thing, so I think the president understands the situation. He understands migrant labor versus illegal alien labor, and I think that'll be a big change.
Congressman, is there anything, liberals are losing their minds. They don't seem to be able to comprehend what happened last Tuesday, and I don't want to get too far away from it and in the meat and potatoes of what is next in terms of governance before we relish in this for a moment. What is your to those in Tennessee, there's not many of us in Tennessee. I think we went more blue, rather more red between 2020 and 2024 than any other state. But
yes, sir.
Is there a message to the leftist that sadly bought into this nonsense narrative that Donald Trump is an authoritarian, he's evil, all these things? I mean, I want to find a way to give these people some solace and stop them from shaving their heads.
I agree. I would tell them that there's plenty of room in the tent for them. This America is their America. Nobody cares the color of your skin. I even said, I normally do very well in my inner city compared to a lot of folks. And I've noticed a lot of Hispanic folks at the polls were talking to me, even the white guys with the man buns. That was the biggest shock to me, that crowd that was coming over afterwards, getting pictures made with me. But I'm telling you, this is your opportunity. Let's pull together on this thing. I think we can do some great things in this country. I really do. But I'll tell you this, I warned folks. I went to sleep about 2:00. I prayed about it. I said, Lord, you got this whichever way. And then I woke up at 4, and then they declared Trump the winner, I think at 4:17. I tweeted at about 4:20. I said, the celebration's over. Let's get to work. We don't have time for a victory lap. We have a country to save. And
what is priority? Well, then tell us this in the couple of minutes we have left. What is the priority number one for the new House? I mean, I know we got a couple of months to get it lined up, but what's your priority number one, Congressman?
I want to see single-issue spending bills. I'm going to swing for the fence.
Yeah.
We don't need any more 3,000-page bills dropped on our lap, 3 hours before the vote is taken. We need to know what's going on, what lobbyists are getting greased, and we need to get out of that corrupt business. I'm going to fight for those types of things. I'm also going to fight for a committee system that's not based on how much money you raise. I think that is a corrupt nature of the game, and both parties are in on it.
Congressman, thank you for everything you do in D.C. for all of Tennessee, but particularly your district over there a little bit to the east of us. I appreciate your willingness also to go into enemy territory. I see all the time on some of these more liberal networks defending the American way of life, defending conservative and libertarian values, and I appreciate that too, my friend.
Thank you. Jim Jordan always asks me why I do that, and I tell him I think it's just good for therapy. But remember the immortal words of AC/DC, the rock and roll group, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Well,
so we got a long way to go.
Well, that's true. Have a drink on me. Huh? That's a little deep cut. Thank you, Congressman Burchett. Yeah, that's another little deep cut for those out there, AC/DC fans. 48 after the hour. We're going to wrap it up in just a moment and take it to the house right after this on The Drive.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I think I broke Afton Ben. My apologies to her supporters. I'll explain moments from now. By the way, we noted this story earlier on in the broadcast, and I think I know that Chris Hand, subbing in for Nashville's Morning News' own Dan Mandis this morning, mentioned it. A FEMA employee, we were told these things weren't happening, by the way, but a United States Federal Emergency Management Agency employee, that agency whose mission it is to help people before, during, and after natural disasters, they fired an employee who advised her survivor assistance team in Florida on paper to not go to homes if they had yard signs supporting President-elect Donald Trump. Quote, according to FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, this is a clear violation of FEMA's core values and principles to help people regardless of their political affiliation. Now, hold on a second. I thought I was told that this wasn't happening. I thought we were told that these were rumors, that FEMA would have any sort of decision-making regarding political affiliation, but apparently it was happening in one place. I'm not suggesting that it was widespread. Oh, far be it. But we were told that it wasn't happening at all. According to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he's now saying that his state's Division of Emergency Management will launch an investigation into the issue. Commentary from the FEMA administrators and DeSantis did not mention the exact time frame or the location of the incident, although we have now learned of the individual in question. In the meantime, poor Afton Ben, last week she made this comment about the incoming, Ms. Wiles, I think it is, the incoming chief of staff, that she looked a lot like Paula Deen, apparently reflecting on the woman's size, saying, boy, I bet the Paula Deen restaurant people hate it when she's coming. Well, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought the liberal Bible said that you couldn't fat shame anymore. That's what I said to Afton. How dare you? Hasn't Lizzo taught you anything? I said to her on social media. I'm sad to report that Representative Afton Ben of Nashville, Tennessee, has deleted her Twitter account.
Oh.
Isn't that too bad?
That's sad.
Next thing you know, she'll be shaving her head. We're back tomorrow at high noon. Brian Wilson back in the saddle for the drive. Until then, have a wonderful evening, folks. For Chris Weber, so long, everybody.